Well, boys, we're back. Footy is definitely underway, about a month in both the AFL and the NRL. We'll chat all things footy. NBA playoffs are just around the corner. Pretty much most of it's all set in the East. The West is still a little bit open through about 3 to 8, plus a little bit of EPL. Ange Postecoglou, is his time running out at Spurs? It may come down to how they go in the Europa League. Bit of F1 from Japan today, and Tim Tszyu winning his fight today in the boxing, plus a little bit of UFC previewing the big fights next week. This is On The Esky. It's an Aussie sports podcast. We like our Aussie sports. We like our US sport. We like to have a bit of a laugh and a dribble. On YouTube, you can skip to the sports that you like, or if you're catching us live, you just have to bear with us and catch the whole thing. We do have social media. You can check us out on X, Facebook, Instagram, and if this is the first time you've stumbled across us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We'd like to start this show by shouting a beer, usually to a person or sometimes an animal, or even a country sometimes, to commend interesting or good athletic achievement. This is an interesting one here, Shauno, but run us through it. Who are you shouting beer this week?
Yeah, well, I'm going with the angle of I want to shout some innovation, and that's
innovation towards
Major League Baseball, which is 1,000 years old at this point. They finally figured out, hey, we can make changes to the bats. So what's been happening is the start of their opening weekend was a couple of weeks ago, actually within the time we started the last podcast, so the last 2 weeks. So they've kicked off the season, and the Yankees kind of brought it to aforementioned with the torpedo bats. So during 2023, they've kind of done the research. One of their key analysts kind of looked at it and looked at the way their batters hit. And they kind of realised a lot of them hit it on what they call the label, which is a little bit lower on the bat. So most of there's a sweet spot on the bat, which is a couple inches from the top of the bat, but you usually don't want to hit it on the toe. So there's a lot of extra meat there you don't use. So the only rules for the bats are basically is the length and weight and the circumference. So what they've worked out is if we take some of that meat from the top and move it down, we can actually move the strike zone down a little bit. And for those guys that kind of struggle to hit it in the sweet spot, but hit it a bit low on the bat, they now have the big, nice, meaty zone that they can hit it there. So it increases their sweet spot. So it's, 11 to 14 inches from the end cap is what it's written there.
It's a fair difference.
Exactly.
Traditional
so
sweet
it
spot
moves it a full
7
inches away. So, and that. To do that, moving that meat then gives it this shape of looking like a torpedo or looking like a bowling pin, for example. I think it looks more like an RPG, to be honest. But I guess the main mainstream media is not going to be referring to it as that.
Maybe not in today's climate.
But the Yankees have been hitting them like bazookas at the moment because they, in their 2 first matches, hit like 15 home runs.
Yeah, so the homers have gone up already.
Yeah, exactly, for them, like significantly. And not all of their batters, all their hitters are using this bat, but over half of them were. I think of the 15, like 9 of those homers came from torpedo bats. But it really started the conversation. Nearly every single other baseball team has now been like, asking, can we get some bats? We need to get some of these bats. It seems to be working. They're selling like hotcakes across America as well. So, all the other leagues are seeing it as well. They're like, hey, we actually need to be getting on this and get the bats themselves. So it's leading to a lot of very interesting talk because there's been a lot of the pitching so good, it's really hard to be a hitter. And now this has kind of swung it back towards the hitters. Hey, we're getting more homers. The batters are kind of getting back into the game a little bit. But the question is, how long will it last? Will the league come along and ban it? Like we've seen some innovation in cricket with my comparison about the thickness of bats and the type of things. And they kind of...
Pretty heavily regulated.
Yes. I think they made it a lot more stricter because of it, because it was a little bit more loose. Whereas this is kind of pretty simple in its length, weight, and circumference is all got to be the same. That it's still within those margins, and they've slightly shifted the weight. So for an interesting innovation in batting technique, I thought it was pretty cool. Interesting though that the bats have been around since like the 70s, that kind of design, but they just haven't been that heavily used, especially not in Major League Baseball. So within a 48-hour period, I think the headline is it's turned the league kind of on its head, and a lot of batters that kind of struggle with maybe getting caught in a little bit been jammed up and having a bit in their swing. This has really opened them up to be able to turn fly balls into home runs, essentially.
Yeah, it brings the sweet spot closer back to your body weight.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting. I suppose in the world that we live in now with analytics and numbers, and they'll only need a small sort of sample size to start to think, is there a massive advantage? And then obviously a copycat league, all the major leagues copycat. You'll see them at every team, and then does the league then have to step in? Or do they say this is great for our intrigue and viewership and
exactly? It's
more
all
runs.
That's all they've been talking about. Like outside of Shohei Ohtani being awesome as usual, they've this has been the main kind of baseball news. It's all I've seen it heaps all over the place, especially if you get on the ESPN feed. So I think it's a very interesting talking point. The fact that you've got a couple of Australian nuffies talking about it as well.
That's it. Torpedoes away.
Yes. So yes, first inanimate object getting a shout out.
Yeah. So we were talking.
Who drinks that?
I don't know. Can the bat drink it?
The analyst that came up with it, mate.
Yeah,
Maybe.
but if you're shouting the
Who created
the innovation,
torpedo bat?
I was saying pre-show, it reminds me if we're shouting bats, the old thirst bat that we used to use for social cricket, hollowed out cricket bat that's made of plastic. I don't think you'd hit many home runs with the old thirst bat. You could hollow out a torpedo and do a torpedo beer chug out of it.
Yeah.
Innovation.
Yeah. And not as a direct comparison, but they did have cork bats a couple of years ago, and those were quickly banned, so that's different.
Yeah.
But I guess in this case, we haven't changed the fundamental material of the bat. We've just shifted
Change
the weight
the
of
physics.
it.
Design.
Yeah. Leading into cricket, I don't think you could probably pull any of that off, but I don't know. Maybe take some of the toe end and move it up and make the other bit a bit thicker.
I've all done all kinds of crazy things with bats in the past. I'd be surprised if there's a direct sort of correlation, been able to do it in cricket.
But interesting and no matter what. What about you, Babby?
I will shout a human shout a beer this week. Min Woo Lee. He won his first PGA Tour title about a week ago now, winning the Houston Open. He was leading for most of the tournament and actually shot a record-setting 260 for the 4 days, 20 under. He did hold off Gary Woodland and Scotty Scheffler, who were hot on his tail on Sunday.
Good names.
Yeah, watching it there as well with Scheffler in particular. I was like, I've seen this happen before. And started to get a little bit nervous, and then made a pretty clutch putt there on 18. He was celebrating after that putt. I'm glad he was confident enough that he wasn't going to miss the 1 footer to win it out. And then Gary Woodland, interesting story as well, sort of coming back from a cancer treatment, essentially. So to be coming second in the PGA Tour event is incredible. So massive for Min Woo Lee, massive for Aussie golf fans. He pockets himself a cool 1.7 mil US, if you don't mind.
Nice.
And at the time, it was 2 weeks out till the Masters. Now we're much, much closer, not far away from the first golf major of the year, and certainly for a lot of people, the most intriguing in the US Masters. So enjoy your beer, courtesy of the Esky, Min Woo Lee.
Very good.
Max, who you got?
Yes. I'm going to jump across to the NFL. I've got a couple of retirees recently that have been a bit of a standout during their careers. So Teron Armstead officially retired after 12 seasons, 9 with Atlanta, and then sorry, not Atlanta, New Orleans.
Yeah,
Atlanta's the next one.
Yeah.
And 3 with Miami.
Yep.
And then my second shadow beer, I'll just do 2 this week, not a whole team.
Not a whole country?
Not a whole country, not a whole fan base or anything. Julio Jones, famously of Atlanta Falcons. 7 times Pro Bowler, 5 times All-Pro. I think it was Offensive Player of the Year as well in that 2015 season.
Yep.
Career total 13,703 receiving yards, 914 receptions, and 66 touchdowns. Probably one of the better wide receivers going around, especially in the era that we sort of follow the sport.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Don't know his first name, christened. I've only just learnt this. Quintoris. Quintoris Lopez Julio Jones. Julio's obviously just a nickname. With those numbers there, 7 Pro Bowls, 13,703 receiving yards, 66 touchdowns. Are we going to see him in Canton, do you think?
I think so, but then I was kind of thinking this, and it might just be the Jerry Rice factor that his touchdown numbers seem unders.
They do. 66.
For 66, because Jerry did what? I don't want to say 200, but yeah. But I was in if you take him out of the equation,
he's an outlier.
Yeah, what's he comparable to in that? Like Randy's at 156.
Yeah, 197 for Jerry Rice. That's regular season.
Yeah.
Marvin Harrison 128, Larry Fitz 121, T.O. 153, Steve Largent 100. So all these Hall of Fame type receivers
but
up
in
in
his
there,
era,
up there in the high hundreds.
Like even Antonio Brown had 83, if I'm reading that correctly.
Yeah.
So I think his yardage numbers and his receptions will probably get him over the line, especially with his All-Pros and Pro Bowls. But yeah, if anything he lacked, it was being able to put up big touchdown numbers. And
even there, his yardage isn't. It's up there, but it's not.
Yeah, but it's above other guys in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
like Andre Reed, Steve Largent, Art Monk. And then again, comparing eras, the league's more pass heavy these days, and they did used to have 14-game seasons, I suppose, with those guys. But
is Andre Johnson in the Hall of Fame? Was he?
Yeah, he just got in, didn't he?
As sort of comparable there.
Yeah, so if
that's 13th.
If Andre Johnson is the yardstick, he probably gets in.
Yeah,
because Andre's only got 400 odd more yards and 4 more touchdowns.
Yeah.
So quite comparable there numbers with Andre Johnson. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting discussion in 5 years' time, that's for sure.
It is, yeah.
Which probably leads also to Armstead, a lot harder kind of thing to go, but he's probably been one of the best left tackles in the last 12 years. But then it's kind of like, where does he fit with the left tackles in that same sort of period? And then what left tackles are kind of coming into consideration? It's a much harder, I think, conversation to try to figure out.
Offensive line is so hard, because
I was trying to think of
very little statistics on it. So unless you're watching them week in, week out, and I suppose you can go off all pro selections and Pro Bowl selections.
How little a number of penalties you
give.
A lot of those guys just end up with
Zach Martin's big low on penalties, I should say.
Yeah, they kind of get like an aura though, like they're that guy, they're the left tackle. That's kind of we work off. It's hard to say, but. Like I was trying to work out if Joe Thomas is probably the only one that comes to mind that retired a couple of years ago that's probably already been eligible. I can't remember if he already made the Hall.
Not yet.
Not on that list.
Because he's the only one I can kind of think of that maybe as well. Like,
what's the most current player on that list?
Yeah, well, why don't I read some from like our sort of era? So Larry Allen, Alan Faneca. Who else we got? There's a lot from like
Steve Hodgson.
Yeah. Tony Munoz is just before us, but considered one of the greatest tackles of all time. Jonathan Ogden, Orlando Pace. These guys are all sort of our era. Willie Rofe. You look at those names, he might be a shout.
It's also pretty hard though. The thing for anything from 2000s onwards, there's not a lot of guys.
Not a lot of love for the O-lineman.
No.
Yeah, when you look at this, that's all O-line. There's 48 in the Hall of Fame. There's 9 tight ends in the Hall of Fame, and there's 29 wide receivers in the Hall of Fame as it stands. So if they're trying to maybe go for a bit more parity,
balance out the books a little bit.
Yeah, it might be hard for Terran Armstead. Nonetheless, an excellent career.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mop of the week. Stay over in the States. John Morant just cannot help himself when it comes to
I think
gun signals.
Yeah, I think the league...
They've made an example of him.
But I think they also let him get... Because he did it twice.
Yep.
So he did it against...
At the Warriors bench.
Yeah, Golden State Warriors. But they kind of started it. I think they did a few things to him, and he sent it back their way. A bit of a shootout on the court, if you will.
And... he was making some pretty big shots, and it was directed at the bench.
Yes.
I reckon the bench was chirping him pretty hard.
Yeah.
That's the way that I...
But I feel like they started, he responded, and the league kind of let that slide.
Mate, a second man in always gets in trouble.
It's always second man.
Yeah. But then he did it in the next game. Like, he did it more as a celebration, and that's where the league's come and gone, mate, we know your history.
Yeah, that's why. It's pride.
People go all in your Jar Wick at the moment with that nickname. So you're going to have to be careful.
Did someone kill his dog?
And you got that history, so they've slapped him with a 75K fine. Again, chump change, but
but it's still a big fine.
Yeah, exactly. But I think they're kind of starting to send that message, just like, hey, we suspended you for similar sort of related topics. It's just not something we do or want.
No, it's not a good image for the game. No. You know, they're trying to.
They don't love it. But
no, they're trying to.
But
distance themselves
having
from anything
said that, I've seen that celebration all over the place and
by other players
and across all various types of American sports.
Sure.
I think college football, you see it once a week, kind of thing. But it's for him specifically though, you're just like you're towing a very fine line there.
That's right, and provided it's just signals and he's not actually getting caught with the real guns on his Instagram.
But he has in the past, which is this.
I'm talking about
just pull him out centre
from now.
From now. You know, you're kind of like, that's dumb, but it is what it is. Cop your fine, get on with things. Provided he stays squeaky clean off the court, I don't hate to see it. And like you said, there are lots of other players doing it across different sporting codes. I think LeBron did one in sort of jest in the last week. But Jar's probably just got to sort of pull his head in a little bit when it comes to that. And particularly given how hard the West is going to be and the Grizzlies haven't been playing the best basketball of late in the last couple of weeks.
Suspension this time of season, don't
get suspended, bro.
not a good
look.
Cop the
fine, but don't get suspended. That's my take. But it just seems a little bit silly. Nothing more than that to me. We will talk a bunch of NBA, given the sort of really exciting part of the season that we're into now. We're about 10 days away from play-in basketball.
Yep.
But before we talk basketball, let's talk our Aussie footy codes. We'll start with some rugby league. Canterbury remain undefeated. Didn't let in Newcastle at all just now.
Finished.
They've just finished. Penrith are in trouble. We'll get to them. And all the teams are off the donut with the Dolphins and Parramatta both getting their first wins. Yep. Fair few sin bins this week. 7 sin bins at the time of writing. We've just
got 8 in total for the round. Rugby league loves. They've had a good month.
Yeah,
a good month of footy, and then they're like,
let's fuck it up.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, everyone's been a bit lax on the high shot, so high shot equals sin bin. So I think they said the one in the Dogs game was professional foul. I think they said 6 of the 8 were from high shots, high contact. I think the one that started the week, which was the Hudson Young one, was a bit. It's borderline, from what we know. And then I think there was the game after it was the Cowboys game. Might have been where I think the Penrith dude ducked, was falling in the tackle, and again gets hit. Again, it's not much you can do in that space, but high contact equals sin bin. So there was a fair bit, and I don't think it affected the round too much, but. We know how much of an impact the Simba has on games. That
Massive.
It's like the dog. This was uses Dogs game as a comparison. This game was close. It was 8 points to nothing, and then they scored basically straight after the sin bin. I had a try disallowed straight after, but they had all the momentum and basically took the game away. So we know it has an impact. The sin bin.
Yeah, and in a game where it's 20-0, you probably can't argue that it changed the outcome of the game, but. It maybe sparks some momentum for the Dogs, and there will be instances where it does change the outcomes of games. It seems a little bit hyperbolic and knee-jerky from the NRL. I also get where they're coming from in the current concussion climate, and you don't want blokes whacked in the head no matter what the circumstances are.
That'd be... I think the take was we've been kind of lenient. We're kind of getting in the season. We're now having a crackdown, as you will. NRL loves a crackdown, but it's exactly a month into the season.
Just no crackdowns in the head. That's what they don't like. But like you said, there's got to be some sort of nuance and case by case interpretation, because we see it all the time when guy loses his footing and he starts falling, and then the arm's already swinging, and it's hard to sort of
it's by his side,
it's hard to react to that sudden change in physics. Can't disappear, mate. Where's it supposed to go? We'll see. I hope it's I hope it's just a little crackdown and it's not something that affects major outcomes of particularly state of origins or finals games.
Yeah, usually I put the whistles in as well.
Origin maybe they're like, don't worry about it.
Using Hudson Young, like he was sin bin penalised and put on report and got nothing. Like he's no suspension or anything. Like is dealt with in the game because so it kind of leads to the point that it wasn't that bad of a high contact, but it was enough to warrant a sin bin. So. We've talked, I think, ad nauseum about the impact of 10 minutes, a man down has on the game, and whether they could implement something else to make it slightly better. But I don't think the league has any appetite at this point yet to do that. I think there was a talk at the start of the year about again the 5-minute sin bin, but they haven't tried it in the trials or anything. They haven't really done anything in that space.
Yeah, so now's not the time to implement it, I don't think.
No, not during the middle of the season. Yeah, if they're going to do something, they need to think about it and add it to the rule set.
I was going to say for Canberra, it almost worked in their favour. Like they did very well to defend their goal line, but with Hudson Young having that 10 minutes,
fresh legs,
they did very well in the last couple of minutes of that game.
Yeah,
well,
very rare.
He was incredible in this game. An interesting stat out of this game as well: 7 tries scored, 5 by edge back rowers. Because Britt Nicker on the other side was very good, and I think Matty Nicholson found the line as well.
Yep.
Raiders, we've got to talk about them.
Yep. Run into it.
Massive comeback and kind of miracle sort of try towards the end to seal the game. I like a moron, was watching Carlton on
with your eyes bleeding
Thursday night, but definitely could see all the Raiders fans in my group chat, their messages coming through when they sealed the game there, and obviously gone back and watched the highlights. And the Raiders finding themselves in the top 8 after a interesting start to the year.
Yeah, good start, then a bit of a lull before we come back to the earth, and then they're kind of trying to, I guess, find what works for them, I think is the best way to explain it. Their backline struggles on the high ball, I think, has been the big thing. They've been turning it over. Like Kyle Weeks, I think, got some work to do as a fullback full-time.
Yeah, hasn't had his best month, has he? Yeah. After looking pretty electric at times last year.
But I think with the ball in hand, he's got no issues. I think it's the defensive side of it, and turning the ball over has been their big issue.
Seems to be the same things with all young fullbacks, isn't it? It's like defensive reads, high ball, like errors. Like, yeah. Once you get that out of your game,
it makes sense. Like your
talent,
it's
a confidence thing. Like but
your talent, your X factor gets you there. So that's what gets you in the squad.
Yeah,
what's going to maintain and keep you there is doing all the hard stuff. So and we've talked about how young their backline is. They've got a lot of work to do, and hopefully they can put it together and keep the season going and finish around the 8th spot like we think they will be. So.
Yeah, well, I think I had them just outside the top 8. None of us had them dead last like a lot of the bookies had.
They're a classic.
Them and the Dragons at the start of the year. So they're 3-2. They've started just fine, really, but that's a big win for momentum and for morale.
A good side like Cronulla as well.
Yeah, that's right.
I think Nico Hines was a bit under a bit of an injury cloud coming under this with a cork, but whether that was a difference or not, I wouldn't say so. I think the Raiders just did enough to keep the game close, so they could have a miracle chance at the end to win it, which they did.
Friday night, Penrith lose again at home.
1 from 4.
Their temporary home this year with the Panther Stadium being redeveloped. But they lose to the Cowboys. That's 4 in a row. We were messaging last week when they lost that they hadn't lost 3 in a row since 2019. That's 4 in a row now. An interesting start as well with the date being incorrect on the jerseys for Isaiah's 250th game. It kind of reads not the best either. 250 Penrith games versus Cowboys. Like that's a pretty incredible achievement that he's played 250 games just against the Cowboys.
Just against the Cowboys.
Well, I think he's 250th against the Cowboys. But I get what you're saying. But the big thing was
is the date.
Yeah, it was April. So the 4th or the 4th.
Is that the correct date? But it's just
no. I think it was the 4th or the 4th.
So they actually got both things wrong.
Right. It wasn't
they
used the US format.
Well, you can check it. Well, that game was Thursday night or Friday night?
Friday was the 4th.
Yes.
Yeah. So that
it was
should,
the 4th or 4th.
That should read 4-4-25.
Yes. Yeah.
4-3-25. It's not a Dargins fuck up. I don't.
no, it's not that bad. It's not their Anzac jersey fuck up.
Using the soldiers from the wrong country.
Yeah,
That was a pretty maybe number one.
yeah.
That is, yeah.
But yeah, I wonder if Zayo's going to put that up on eBay. And, he'll get the real one, the corrected one, and he'll give that one away as the faux pas.
That's 3 embroidery issues that we've had in the last.
How rugby league is that? They fuck up the jerseys.
Dargins is definitely the funniest.
yes. What a dog.
Are we worried yet with Penrith, or do we think too many classy players, they'll get things right?
Well, speaking of which, To'o, hamstring, going to miss a month. So, missing him. Dylan Edwards, when's he back?
Yeah, it shouldn't be too far, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cleary just had the head knock and has come back from that. So you
Coming off a shoulder surgery
as well.
in the
Yeah.
off-season.
So you don't want to put him in bubble wrap, but he's got to play into some form too, which I think's their issue. So, they're key guys that have stayed through the premiership run and they're the guys you're expecting to kind of stand up for it as well. So I think we said it in the preview, and I think I said it as well. It was like, it feels like they're coming down to earth year as the turnovers finally hit them. A couple injuries to those key guys, and they just don't have that depth anymore to maintain it. So, which they've got. Cleary can't do it all himself by all accounts.
Should get Dylan Edwards back next week. Should get Scott Sorensen back next week. I'm not concerned about them, say, making the top 8.
I think I agreed. I think we always said they're top 8. I think I had them slide into 5th or 6th.
Yep.
Which I think is kind of fair.
Aging pretty well at the moment.
Yeah.
We'll see how the season.
But
plays out.
rather than an orange period, they might just get hot and not lose a game from that point onwards. So
that's it. Might not have many players up for origin duty.
Yeah,
can snag 1 or 2 games.
Well, Yo will still play. Yeah. Cleary will still play. Martin will still play.
Yeah,
and then pending
Edwards
health, Edwards and To'o.
Yeah.
So they're still going to have.
Yeah. That's
be thin in the origin.
Big 5, and they got to keep them going.
Yeah, not concerned, but certainly not looking like Melbourne looked, say, for example, in around about the halftime mark today against Manly.
Yeah. Well, I kind of was thinking about this. This is kind of where we thought Souths would be, but the Souths are actually been
eating shit on that one.
Yeah.
I had them with the spoon.
Yeah.
And obviously Latrell come back Friday night, but they're still missing bulk troops, and they're, what are they, 4th? Fifth. They've dropped 2.
Yep. Sprinkle that Wayne magic on it. You can't discredit it. Interesting, Latrell into the centres. I think it was a big thing to come from this because
and Dry Gray brained it as well.
Yeah. It's been really good for them at fullback. So I think Latrell, Whiten, and in the centres, and him in the it's a very good back line.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting, and Humphries has got to do a job for them at 7 going forward. But
got hurt in this.
Yeah. Okay. But the Roosters are kind of a middle of the pack squad, I think, at the moment with their injuries and kind of how they're playing. So I think it was a good get for Souths, and these are good games that they need to win, so they can be a top 8 squad by the end of the year. But I think again, if they can keep just snagging game here and there, when they get all those troops back, that's when they'll make their run.
Yeah, pretty impressive. They've only lost 1 game, and that was to Cronulla. I think in the first 2 weeks, when they beat Dolphins and Dragons, people were like, we'll see if they can beat good teams. Knocking off Penrith and, East, whilst they're both maybe not where they have been in the last few years, it's still very classy clubs. Yeah, so they're 2 big scalps, and they're 4-1 and sitting very pretty, through the first month of footy.
Yeah. Do you know who they got coming up?
Let me have a look. So round 6, they host the Cowboys. That's the double header over in Perth. So they have the Cowboys in Perth.
Yep.
And then they've got a tough game, Good Friday against the Dogs.
Good test there.
A couple tests upcoming, and then they go to Melbourne. So the next 3 rounds, that's when we'll see. Are these guys legit, or are they just in that mid-tier sort of conversation?
Yep,
that's it. How did you think Latrell went coming back? There was a few in the second half. I saw he was coming out of the line very quickly in defence. That kind of left the gap open.
Yeah,
on the
obviously
wing. I was a bit worried about it.
defensively, it's different. Centre's probably the hardest place to defend in the NRL. Like, you've got to make decisions, and it's not the decision making is not as bad as been on the wing. But then you've also got to go in and still make 15, 25 tackles a game.
Yep.
But obviously, you know, his body size and the fact that he's done in Origin and he's a natural centre that's been shifted to fullback a little bit.
Plus he's missed a month. So
yeah, I think that'll just be getting used to their defensive schemes, and I wouldn't be too concerned about that.
Yeah, I don't think you'd be happy enough that the results you get with ball in hand probably pays for a couple of defensive areas.
As long as he's scoring tries or
I think we mentioned it last pod. Like, you know, when you get someone coming at you and you're the second in defender and it's Latrell Mitchell, I can't think of many people fully healthy in the NRL who you'd rather to try and finish off from the centre position.
Yeah.
All right, Super Saturday, we saw some of the winless teams get off the mark. Unfortunately, our Dragons went down for the second time this season by a single point. Massive game for both Zach Lomax and Clint Gutherson against their old clubs. Gutho started off very well. He got the first try, ended up with 2 in the game. He also had 157 run metres, 7 tackle busts. Dragons led this 20-8 at the 50-minute mark, and then the Eels started clawing their way back in. And then just a bit of a comedy of errors-ish towards the end of the game. Tyrell Sloan a little bit unlucky to put his foot on the white chalk. That would have possibly sealed the game. Also questionable pass from Moses Sully, but anyway, Bunker can't rule on that.
Got cross-eyes for those ones.
And then they both tried to kick some field goals, couldn't get it. Game goes to golden point, and then you kick the ball out in the full in golden point, and it's field position is so important when a field goal can drain you. And they're just the momentum and everyone dropping their heads, I think, after that big mistake from the inexperienced player. But then you still got to finish it, given the good field position, and Zach Lomax with ice in his veins against his old club. Was only 25 out, pretty much straight in front, but the pressure was coming, and he got the ball off very quickly and knew it was good off the boot. So credit to Lomax and him being instrumental in getting the Eels off the donut. But it was a bit of a kick in the guts, wasn't it, as a Dragons fan, to lose in that circumstances to the team coming last off the boot of Zach Lomax, coached by Jason Riles. That one stung a little bit, and you start thinking in your head, if we finish against South and we finish against Parramatta, and we've got 8 points.
If we win games,
well, that's it. Play a whole 80 minutes.
So a lot of ifs and buts, but did beat Melbourne last week, so grand final tickets, etc.
That's it.
I did want to ask you, since you watched a lot of this, how did Brown play? Because it was quite interesting. There'd been a lot of recent kind of talk about, hey, he hasn't been playing good enough. He's not going to be the club long term. Why don't we start the rebuild? We're playing pretty shit as it is. And then they had the immediate release of Dylan Walker from the Warriors to come straight across, and has played a lot of 6. I think he's been playing more in the second row of later off the bench, but has experience as 6. Does he walk straight in? I don't know. I wanted your thoughts on how Brown went, and then what did Walker play in this? I don't think he did.
I think if Jason Riles started Dylan Walker at 6 over Dylan Brown, he would be losing his job the next day. would be my thoughts on that. Look, bring in someone for a little bit of half cover and some experience, and this stress reaction in Moses' foot looking like it's going to play out quite some time. I think that would be the reasoning there.
Yeah, I agree. It didn't look good. There was a lot of conversation going that, hey, Dylan Brown's not playing very well. Maybe we look to the future. And then within that same week, you go out and get a replacement, like another guy that's played a lot of 6. The visuals didn't look great, but I guess having a win also helps.
Walker wore the 14 in this game. I'm just getting. He played 52 minutes. 52 minutes. More as a utility. Unless Brown gets hurt, I can't see it happening. Having said that, he's going to have a big sort of target on his back now, being the well, he will be the richest man in rugby league, I suppose, at some stage until the next mega deal gets signed. But he's got a lot to prove, I suppose, in his final year as an Eel.
Yep.
Finns get off the mark. They dominated this game. They finished 36-10 at Seabus Super. I think it was 28-0 at one stage, and then Gold Coast got a few back towards the end. That's the first win under Christian Wolf. They didn't get off to a good start. We spoke about sin bins and momentum and games and things. Big Tino in the bin after 1 minute of play. That sort of set the tone. Yep. Daniel Saifiti, very good for the Dolphins. And, yeah, both them and Parramatta getting off the donut in back-to-back games. Brisbane go to second on the ladder with their 46-24 win over Wests. This was pretty close at halftime. It was 14-12. Then a little bit of masterclass from Adam Reynolds. And then you don't often see this. He kicked a conversion, I think it was, and then sort of trotted off with some hamstring tightness awareness. They didn't seem...
He had a lot of hamstring injuries in previous years.
He's had left and right. I think he's had issues on both. I think I've got the post-game comments in verbatim, tightened up a bit there, didn't want to risk anything, bit of old age. They were up big at that stage. So, they might have said, let's not...
Makes sense.
I did the same thing from my head. My hammy's a bit tight and it come off.
Early shower. Early shower.
Bit Anthony Richardson. Just tired.
Just tired, coach. Shout out to... That's a good little reference there. Anthony Richardson, quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts for those playing at home. Xavier Willison, pretty good in this one. 41 minutes in the middle, 2 tries, 17 tackles, 7 tackle busts. One of the big stories throughout the week, though, and we seem to talk about it every year, definitely in the run into Origin we talk about it. Payne Haas wants to make a decision post-Origin about his national eligibility. Obviously, with Samoa being a Tier 2 nation, under the current rules, he could play for New South Wales, and Samoa would just have to not represent Australia in the green and gold. And reportedly, Tino Fasasu Malawe in possibly
straight on the back of that,
similar considerations.
I think Samoa are hunting him. So they're kind of like, hey, we're probably going to have Payne Haas, best New South Wales front rower. Let's get the best Queensland one and see if Big T wants to join as well. Which I guess led to a lot of questions about tier systems and eligibility and I guess intent for the, what would you call it? I'm just going to bracket it all as like all-star kind of games, like as in, international, you're representative. That's what I'm going for.
Yep.
You're representative kind of football. What's their intent? Because I think rugby league's pretty close to, they've got that problem that Samoa, Tonga, let's pick those two, probably in the next 2-3 years aren't going to be a tier 1 nation anymore. And if that's tier 2 nation and be a tier 1, maybe get to the point of eliminating the tier systems, then how does that then fit and how does that then work? Because if, in this case, we'll use Payne Haas as an example, if he then want to play Samoa, he couldn't play Origin.
If they change it.
If they change that.
Jump up,
Yeah. But then there's also the conversation currently about what is the intent for Origin. Because historically it was you play city country, you do well in that, you play for New South Wales. New South Wales, Queensland, you do well on that, you play for Australia. Of course, there's no city country anymore. Australia, we'll talk about the new Ashes they're going to do next year. But the international game isn't as heavily represented as the, let's call it the Super Bowl of rugby, which is state of origin.
Yeah, the pinnacle is state of origin.
Yeah. But is Origin still the... play well, get a pathway to Australia, or is it its own standalone thing? Which, in the case of, if it's its own standalone thing, should it just be if you, the eligibility, regardless of what country you want to play for? It's just if you grew up in those states, the other part of the eligibility, should you be able to represent them? And I use Benji Marshall as the example as the Kiwi, but basically grew up in Queensland his entire life. But since he represented Queensland, he couldn't play. But do you want those guys then coming to the best 17 players from each state plays off?
There's a few things to consider.
I've tried to lay all of it out.
Well, obviously the demographic of the game has changed completely.
Exactly.
In the 80s and 90s, having that pathway of city country, New South Wales, Queensland, Australia, made a lot of sense when the game was maybe
In those two states.
in the 80s was probably 2% Pacifica, and in the 90s was maybe 10% Pacifica.
Correct.
And now we're approaching 50%.
Yep.
So the demographic changes it a lot, and a lot of these boys are born and bred Aussies, and they feel connection to their state, and they feel connection to New South
grew up
Wales
there
and
the whole
Queensland,
time.
and they're just as much as New South Welshmen as anyone else.
Yep.
But they also feel their connection to their
heritage.
ancestry and their parents or their
Yeah,
grandparents.
it might be their birth country or anything like that, but yes.
So there's that aspect. I think also the international game with England probably not being as strong as what they were in the past, and New Zealand can definitely dish it up on their day. But whenever we look at the 17s, New Zealand will always be the underdogs, and can go out and beat Australia 30-0 like they did 18 months ago. Yep. I think the combination of those two factors is leading now to what we're seeing here, where the modern game Origin is probably the pinnacle. I think blokes want to win Origin possibly more than getting their green and gold jersey. Not that doesn't mean anything to them. And then half of our players have got this very difficult decision to make. And do they want to come representative football time, wear the green and gold, or do they want to play with the other boys of their heritage? And when you look at the rosters that Samoa and Tonga have been putting together over the last 5-10 years,
getting better.
Going back to when Tonga actually beat Australia for the first time a few years ago over in New Zealand, and it was a sea of red and white, and we saw the Pacifica nations just last year, the amount of atmosphere, with the crowd singing and these unreal atmospheres for when Samoa and Tonga play.
Having guys like Haas and Tino playing,
they have the best international pack in rugby
but
league.
also having them play grows the international game too. So there is that
think it's
caveat
important.
too. So it's a question of then what do you do? Do you take the international rules out of Origin eligibility?
I think they'd like. To be honest, I
kind
don't
of feel like it might go that way.
I don't think they hate. I don't think they hate that some of these guys, these high-profile guys, want to play for their heritage because it keeps international rugby league relevant. Compared to say rugby union, where the one thing that we always talk about is the NRL is far superior in our opinions than Super Rugby, but the Rugby World Cup is superior to the Rugby League World Cup. I don't think anyone's going to argue that fact. It's important for rugby league internationally to have these strong tier 2 nations. But does it get to a point where they say, well,
I think we're fast running towards that. Where they're not 2 tier. They're better than England on a regular basis, and competing with New Zealand and Australia regularly. Then you've got that problem of what does that mean for state of origin, which I feel like it leads down the who cares kind of part. It was just like international is a separate game in itself. We just want the best 17 from each state playing, and that's where we'll end up. So, it sucks for guys that have gone through a system and they couldn't do it. A few Kiwi boys to pick on them, but I think
they won't change it that way. I don't think.
What would you do though? If they both become tier 1, then what do you do for Origin?
Like you talked about demographic, like geographically, the league's going to look a little bit different in the next 5 to 10 years. You're
More teams, more teams
PNG
coming.
Team. You might. Well, we're thinking that there's
Another New Zealand
team. So, does that take less of an emphasis away from having your state of origin, state versus state, mate versus mate sort of
I
thing?
think they can't because that is the showpiece. Like that makes up the most money for the NRL.
Playing your players, your playing pool is growing, and then you're going to grow this market in PNG. You're going to grow the market in New Zealand, but those markets aren't going to have any connection to state of origin. So what do you do with that?
Yeah.
Well, I think they maybe try and keep it the way it is for a long time because
I think
there is connection to state of origin with the if you're Samoan and your favourite players are Payne Haas and Jerome Luai. Maybe you're cheering for New South Wales, but I think a lot of those people living in PNG and in New Zealand still have connection to state of origin because of watching the game for a long time. And PNG fans are passionate. When you see them in the Facebook comments, they can a lot of them consider themselves Queenslanders just from proximity. And just it seems that in rugby league that if you're not from New South Wales, the Victorians and the other states, will tend to side with Queensland. I don't think they're completely excluded. But it's an interesting one, and I think we'll be talking about it every season now.
I think there's going to be that tough conversation because I reckon it's probably this decade we'll have to make that decision about, the tier system may die and those guys are, all those international teams are kind of on par. And then what that impact is for state of origin, because my concern with that is, potentially leads to more of like a all-star game where it's the, best players from those two states going head to head, and then does it start to lose some of its mystique? I don't think so, just purely on the concept of hatred between the two states. It's a bit different to the American all-star games, but I think they'll potentially start to open it up for more of those guys from other internationals that played in those, grew up in those states to potentially play. And I think it happens probably in the next 5 years.
Okay. Let's watch this space. Yes. Wanted to go back to Benji. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't think he come to Queensland until he was like 16.
16, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Whakatane High School, Keebra Park State High School, Gold Coast, age of 16. So obviously 13 is the line that they've drawn, but
I think that rule was slightly different when he came through.
Possibly as well.
But either way. I know Jason Taumalolo was the other one, but...
there's been a lot of guys that have gone that pathway.
Well, we talk about that dude, what's his name, that played for the Sharks, winger.
Ronaldo Mortalo.
As the other kind of one, missed it by a couple of months.
Yep.
He potentially, could actually, if he's... I still think that the 13 years is the main one that kind of stays there. I could be swayed either way.
I don't know.
Eligibility in rugby league was going to be an ongoing topic.
Payne Haas and Tino Fa'asasua Mala'awe, if they go over to Samoa, I would like to see it. It starts to become like when you go, a pack and they join with Jeremiah Nane and Terrell May and made this super pack, and you start thinking, oh, geez, could these guys knock us off? I think the Aussies will start to think, okay, we've got a great pack. Okay, well, what's your spine look like? What do your outside backs look like? We still think we've got you here, and then it may just make these games between Australia and Samoa and Tonga, and New Zealand and Samoa and Tonga even more interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Team that's pretty good at football is the Melbourne Storm. Crazy stat, after a loss in the last 3 years, they averaged 38 points the following week. Manly, unfortunately, copped them on this week at home.
I wonder what bellyache does to them during the week.
I can't imagine, there's lots of kumbaya sitting around a campfire and singing songs. I reckon they'd probably had a pretty hard week on their training
I did see the stat. I think this was the first game this season. They had all 4 of them as well. Their spine intact.
Yeah, Jerome Hughes was wearing 22. He was out for 2 weeks after having his hand operated on. That's incredible that they come back that quick after a fracture in the hand.
Probably shouldn't have come out so quick, but he's...
Are you a doctor?
Yeah, exactly. He's just like...
on this podcast, he is.
Resident Dr. Gordon on the end here. Yeah, it's interesting. Metacarpal. So, again, like from an anatomical standpoint, not the worst bone in your body to break, but 2 weeks after a surgical repair is pretty crazy.
I know it's kind of a thing you can protect a little bit, I reckon, as well. So.
As opposed to scaphoid or something that's down in the wrist joint itself. It's a hand fracture rather than a wrist fracture.
Manly did pretty good to avoid the 50 in this, so there's been no other teams that get 50 put on them yet and be ruled out from grand final time.
So they haven't had a line put through.
Didn't get the line through them. They went very close though. I thought I think it was 48 with like 10 to go.
15 to go.
15 to go, I thought they were done, but they managed to claw back in there at the end. And
they actually scored 3 tries at the end and made it a bit more semi-respectable.
Yes, but they got hammered. Big news 2 weeks ago now, DCE. I think the story's kind of broken. Everyone knows what's happened there. I think the question we've got to ask is, where do you think he ends up next season?
So what are our options here? Retirement, Roosters is a big shout.
I think, sum it up for you, I think all Queensland teams but Brisbane would be interested because you think, pair him with Tom Deaton, excellent. Go to Finns, teach Kotoa, excellent idea.
Grew up in Redcliffe.
Yeah, grew up in Redcliffe. Titans, would love some experience in the halves, and Des Hasler is there. Makes a lot of sense.
And history of little
backflip. Maybe come good on a deal from 10 years ago. So, and reports were he wanted out last year to go back to Queensland. So those three teams will all be interested. Broncos probably makes the least sense with the amount of halves they've got over 35 as is. So I don't think they need a third one. It isn't Pokemon. You need to catch them all.
You love your Pokemon references.
Yeah, of course you got to throw one on.
Ash Ketchum.
Yes. But then Melbourne, Canberra would be an interesting one, but I doubt it. A lot of rumours about, Manly were interested in Fogarty to kind of do a swap. Not a swap deal, but like as in they were looking at him as a potential replacement anyway if DCE wasn't keen, which kind of kicked off this whole hoopla. So I don't think any of those, don't think New Zealand. So I think of the Sydney teams, a lot of them need halfbacks, like the doggies. That could be what puts them over the top. Though I think Sexton's been good this year, but DCE.
Could you imagine? And if they win now,
exactly like that. They're a top 4 team, I think, by the end of the year. It's just can they win it? And it was like maybe they miss lead halfback. Gus has already ruled it out, said they're not interested. Dragons could use him. Eagles depends.
I don't think he's going to go to the Dragons or Eels or someone that's not in a premiership window.
Yeah. Exactly. It's either go back to Queensland or win now, which doggies makes a lot of sense, and Roosters potentially when healthy also kind of fit that mold, and they need halfback. So,
according to AI, Roosters reportedly front runner with some suggesting a deal.
I think they're
done.
Betting favourites.
Yeah, I don't know if there is a market, but if there was, the Roosters I think would be the favourites. I like the Dolphins. I like it as with the family history, and literally that was his junior club before moving further north. I don't mind that, although I did just say a minute ago, I don't know if he's going to go to a club that's not in a premiership window.
Yes.
But again, with DCA and Katoa there and Hammer, you start putting together a pretty reasonable spine. It'll be interesting to see. And then obviously the personal connection with Des Hasler and the Titans. It'll be interesting to see what happens. He is the oldest man in rugby league at the moment.
Yep.
I'm assuming it's going to be a 2-year deal max. Maybe it might just be next season. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I reckon as well for Manly, the playing group or the fan base, after losing Tommy Turbo last week, MCL thankfully, so it's not going to be a season ender, but another injury for their superstar fullback, and the news that DCE's gone. I wonder if that was part and parcel of why they just got blown off the park today.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. I think they had all the emotion last week, which led to their win. I just don't think they they come down and then hit Storm at the wrong time.
Yep.
That's why they got pumped.
Speaking of Canterbury, 20-0 against Newcastle. The game has just finished. We didn't get to see heaps of it. There's sort of been bits unfolding as we've been watching. There was a sin bin, which sort of swung a bit of momentum. But, I think I said before, you don't win games 20-0 off a refereeing decision, which means the Canterbury Bulldogs are the only undefeated team in the rugby league, sitting at 5-0. Yep. I'll tell you who they play next week because that'll be interesting to see how long they can stay undefeated. They have a bye and then play Souths.
Yeah,
Souths in round 7.
That's the tester for Souths as well. So that'll be a good game of footy for that one.
Very good game.
Almost like Gus Gould knows what he's doing, eh? All right, that'll do it for the NRL. We do have some international news to talk about. Yeah. So Ashes.
Yes, they announced Ashes returns in 2025. I think it just is really a tour of England. So Australia will do a tour of England, play matches in October, November. That plan is the end of the year. How that fits with everything else, I think that's kind of what they're kind of using as that window, because I don't think there's anything else kind of planned. So to do playing at Wembley would be pretty interesting if I read that right. So
Wembley's the first test, and then the second one at the new Everton Stadium, which has just opened up. So
and Leeds will be the third and final test. So there's been when we were growing up as young fellas, there was the tours of England that the Australian team would do at the end of the season, and you might get up super early in the morning, be able to catch one, and see Ricky Stewart going bananas. But it's been hasn't been recent the last time they toured England. They got after 22 years. So yeah, it's I think as we talked about, the growth of trying to grow the international game, England and Super League, and trying to get that competition still going again. I think that's pretty cool. Who is the English coach, by the way? Because it was Wayne. I don't think it's Wayne anymore.
Well, that's women's.
That's women's.
Let me just go England rugby league coach. Still Wayne. Sean Wayne.
Yes. Different way.
Yeah, as far as I can see, has been their coach since 2020. In that time, England's won 10 games, lost 2. So we're just talking about how, maybe the rivalries died off a little bit because maybe we're a lot stronger. This would be a good way for us to prove it, to go over there and maybe 3-zip them on their home turf. It's always different.
I don't think they were that strong at the World Cup, though. So
remember they smacked Samoa in the group stage, and then they lost their semi-final, I think, to not make the big one. So it's good. Again, good for international rugby league. I do feel for some of these players. It's a very long year, but they're elite athletes, and I'm sure they would want to pull on the green and gold and go try and win in England in a standalone Ashes, as opposed to a World Cup. For the first one in 2 decades.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, should we talk some Aussie rules footy?
Yes, let's do it.
Round 4 in the AFL kicked off Thursday night with the biggest crowd in attendance so far. Obviously, Collingwood and Carlton, one of the fiercest rivalries in sport in general, not just in the AFL. 82,000 there on a wet night at the G. The biggest crowd so far of the season.
AFL gets crowds.
Big time, especially when it's 2 blue ribbon clubs going at it. One desperate for a win and one desperate to keep them winless. Neck and neck first half, pretty low scoring in the greasy conditions, and then we're starting to see a bit of a trend here. But whatever Vossi said to the boys at halftime didn't help them because they got outscored 30-1 in the third quarter, and then we're playing a bit of catch up from there. Ended up losing by 17 points. Nick Dacos good as usual. Darcy Cameron good. That was an interesting battle there because Tom De Koning, despite the Blues not being great, has been one of the best ruckmen in the league in the first few rounds. Darcy Cameron certainly not only held his own, maybe won the battle on the night with 33 hitouts and 22 disposals, and it was the clearances in the third quarter where it just started becoming one-way traffic. Collingwood. So if your ruckman can give Nick Dacos first usage, you tend to go pretty good.
Yes.
And then they were getting it out. And had they actually converted on their inside 50s, it could have been a really bad night for Carlton. It was probably the conditions and some of the greasiness which led them to be kicking 8-15 and not being super clinical on their inside 50s. But yeah, Carlton 0-4. You sort of posed the question, when does the Voss, sacking circus start again?
Because I've seen the social media of all the Blues fans post matches, very not happy with their. I think they're mistake ridden, and a game like this where it's wet elevates that. Excuse. Yeah, well, excuse in some regards, but they're a team that doesn't play mistake-free football. So there's, that's why there's a lot of push and heat on the coach, and that's why a lot of the fans aren't happy down there as well. So I think with their current run going forward, you got West Coast and North Melbourne. So I think they'll be fine. Lose both those games, I think he's gone. Yeah,
they're on 6. I think we can have that conversation in a fortnight.
Well, I think there'll be just so much pressure. There's you just lost to historically the 2 West clubs in the league for the last 5 years.
Yeah, North longer.
Yeah, and it's just you're done. I just don't think he'll be able to withstand the amounts of heat and pressure that's going to be coming if they lose those 2 games.
Agreed.
Having said that, I think they'll win at least one of them. So I think you'd be right.
I think they should beat West Coast in Adelaide. It's a neutral venue, so the Weagles fans will
don't travel real well.
But yeah, they've just looked dreadful, really, to start off the season. Maybe not all the 0-4 teams are built the same. We'll get to Melbourne in just a second. Of the teams down the bottom there, and I maybe have my navy blue glasses on. I think Carlton are the best of those teams. I don't know if that's saying a whole lot, but I agree with you. I think it'll be a conversation, and if they go to 0-6, then we'll be talking about it in a fortnight. That's for sure. Having said that, they did lose 6 in a row in 2023, and they made the prelim that year. So Voss has shown history with
starting slow.
Well, with the current.
He also had a lot of heat that led after that. So
remember, that's all that everyone was talking about. He's out the door.
Yeah.
So again,
that's his debut season, wasn't it? So
that's right. And it wasn't to start off the season. I think it was sort of middle of the year. But essentially everything that we were talking about, 18 months, 2 years ago was, he looked like he was going, and then they turn it around, and they actually had a lead in that prelim final, would you believe? They went pretty close to making the GF in 2023. So you have to, also take that on board and realise that it's April. It's the start of April, and it's a long season. But 0-4 and 0-6 are very different talking points.
Yes. But getting to 0-6 and losing to those two teams,
it's
a bit of a different conversation. But
hopefully a bit of a
wins matter, results matter.
100%.
In a results-driven league, it's going to be very, very tough. I hope for his sake, no, they don't have to.
I don't think the pressure cooker's as hot as Ange Postecoglou, who we'll get to a little bit later in the show. Monks, you got the margins up there.
I was going to ask about that. Are you worried
so
about the margins more than anything else?
Well, they keep losing close games, and it's all it's all second half stuff. I don't have the stat handy this week, but we spoke about it last time. They're getting outscored in the second half like 4-1 at the moment. So I don't know if that's a conditioning thing, or I don't know if it's an efficiency thing. We definitely know that they're
adjustments at half time.
Yeah, well, their disposal efficiency is dreadful. Maybe they need to be hitting targets and being a bit cleaner with it. I can't imagine it's a fitness thing. Like, some of those
Wouldn't think so,
midfielders, like Sammy Walsh is renowned for being one of the fittest guys in the league. Throw Cripper in that argument too.
Yeah, I think with the fact that it's low margins that they lose by, it's an execution problem, which leads more to a coaching issue. So that's why I think there's a bit of heat going Vossi's way.
Get right next week against West Coast.
Quiet though.
And North are better. They're not. You can't just put it down as a win.
Yeah.
It's interesting as well because we spoke about this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. The only two teams that they've actually beaten since about June last year are these two teams.
Yes.
So again, that's concerning in itself, but it also sort of maybe bodes well for the run into Anzac Day.
Yeah. Did you see at this game a couple of fellows got arrested for having guns in the stadium?
Yeah, loaded guns. I heard.
Like
really?
I kind of. Wow. Yeah. If you go to a Blues game, mate, you got to prepare yourself.
These guys,
I suppose so.
These fan bases fucking hate each other.
Yeah,
there's probably a line. It does make me wonder what's the security like.
Considering it's the MCG, it's meant to be one of the more secure stadiums in the country.
So that is a little bit concerned. And then just Google it, Marks, whilst you've got it here. If they're then in there, how do people know what's happening?
Someone must have seen something.
Have they got the guns out?
Yeah.
Is Ja Morant a Collingwood fan? I don't know. He would go for Collingwood, I would think.
Yeah, true.
I would think.
Or were these Blues fans and you're just, they've got too much misery.
2 men have been arrested allegedly carrying guns into Thursday night's Carlton-Collingwood clash. The men, 27 and 21, were both on bail at the time. That in itself is also concerning.
Let's hope they avoided anything worse happening.
The breach appeared to be a result of human error after security personnel failed to follow up an alert from the stadium's artificial intelligence security system.
AI's stopped us.
No, AI did the job. Picked it up and then the person.
We just need robot seckies.
You do.
Ja Morant, you must leave. Wow. And
he's got to have a Kiwi accent, bro.
Coppers didn't.
I need a robot Kiwi accent.
No robot Russian. I've done a ballsy one with the Russians. Yeah, there's a picture of the
revolver,
pistol. Yeah. No one was hurt in the incident.
Yeah, very lucky.
Well, two blokes, both on bail.
They won't be on bail any longer.
Broadmeadows and Roxborough Park.
Yeah, not surprising there if anyone's familiar with Melbourne geography, Broadmeadows. But anyways, glad that no one got hurt and the coppers got them.
Yes.
Yep.
Agree.
All right, let's go back to the footy, the actual footy side of things. Geelong keep the Melbourne Demons winless and hapless. 12-13-85, beat 6-10-46. Paddy Dangerfield winds back the clock a little bit in this one. 20 disposals, 3 goals. Zach Guthrie, pretty good. He had a whopping 17 marks. What's Melbourne's problem? Because when we talk about margins here, they have been, not as bad as West Coast, but also not as close.
Almost 40 points on that one. So
not as close as the Carlton margins have been.
Yeah. Are they healthy?
Ish.
My big question is going to be on Petrarca, considering how his season ended last year.
Yeah,
I think he'd be good.
I think Trark and Oliver both played in this. I'm just going to confirm that.
But he also, considering how he played, he might be slowly working his way into the season, if you know what I mean.
Trark played. Oliver come off the bench.
Oliver had been excellent.
Gordon played. Cozzy Pickett was back. He had been missing. I'm fairly certain.
They're just old.
May played. I think they're missing.
No
massive names. Yeah, I think they don't have now that key 21 to 26 sort of type players. They've got a lot of young talent coming through, and then they've got a lot of the
heavy
30,
name value in the 30s.
Pluses. Yeah.
I mean, what happened during the off season? They had a lot of drama, but
leading into the off season, they had a lot of drama, a lot of
Well, Clayton Oliver was out the door apparently.
He's been great for them though.
He's been good. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen enough Melbourne football to fully comment. No. I don't think. Like Carlton's a different story because I'm an idiot and I watch them every week.
Yeah.
But Demons fans, get at us in the comments if you can let us know what is wrong with your team. Let's see when they have get right games. Hopefully sometime soon. That's a big game. Yeah, so 7:30, gather around at the Adelaide Oval upcoming. Were they to lose that, they then host Fremantle, then they get Richmond. They should really be able to beat Richmond on Anzac Day Eve, you would think. Although Richmond haven't been possibly as bad as what some had been anticipating. They were pretty
some good young talent.
Yeah, pretty ordinary the last couple of weeks. Yep. Gold Coast are good. Yeah. They win one by 1 point.
Probably should have won this game a bit more comfortably. They had a decent lead for most of it as well, but give Crom credit for closing it down.
Big non-call at the end as well with Isaac Rankin not being awarded a free kick or mark. So that's been spoken a fair bit about today. Interesting as well, Tom Morris said in these games that they lose close margins, there was 2 in 2023, one against Collingwood where Jordan Dawson didn't get a free kick. They lose by 2 points. There's a Ben Keys goal which wasn't given against Sydney. They lose by 1. There was one last year against Essendon. They lose by 3. There's another one today where they lose by 1. And in all of these instances, the AFL came out and said that the incorrect decision was made. So, massively. Yeah. Having said that, Crows are looking pretty good. It's April. It's one loss. Yada yada yada.
Yeah, they're a young team, and same for Suns. They're kind of in that, they're a young team. Second year with
Dimmer.
That's the one I'm looking for as their head coach. So we'll hopefully see them continue to grow.
Yeah, and they've sort of shown both ends of the spectrum. They smacked up Melbourne. They smacked up West Coast. This is their first, hit out, and they showed, albeit with an interesting decision go their way, that they can win the close, gritty game. So they're undefeated. They play North next week, so they should win that. They play Richmond the week after that. You'd think should win that. Maybe first Swans challenge against the Swans on Anzac Day weekend. And the AFL's be loving it, with dynasty winning coach
Finally.
goes up there and finally gets a team which we've probably haven't questioned talent over the years. Obviously, consistency has been a massive issue. Intrigue has been a massive issue. Being up there on the Gold Coast. And now they've started 3-0 and they've got the potential definitely to go 5-0. That'll get a few Suns fans up and about.
Yep.
Going back to his old team, Richmond, they hung in there against Brisbane, but Brisbane returned to the G for the first time after the grand final and come out 28-point winners in this one. Did you catch much of the Lions?
I caught some of this. And they probably should have been ahead by more earlier. They let a few opportunities. There should have been goals, but ended up being behinds. But you get that. I think I don't want to say they coasted towards the back end of the game, but I think they did what they needed to do for the job in this.
They were up 16-8 to 9-8, so they're up 7 goals at three-quarter time, and then it was just Richmond actually won the last quarter 4 goals to 2. Yeah, maybe like you said, when you're up there, you just need to make sure that you come home with the 4 points.
Before you get hurt or anything like that. So, yeah.
Lockie Neal, pretty incredible, 42 disposals. Probably chalk him up for the 3 Brownlow votes in this one. And Lions tend to do this, 11 different goal kickers. Once they get it inside 50, they've got all their forwards can score and their mids can push forward and score as well.
McCarthy get 3 in this, or did he get 2?
I think there was 2 that had 3. I think it was Charlie and McCarthy. I didn't write him the notes. Bailey and Cameron had 3 apiece.
Bailey, I'm getting confused. Zach Bailey.
And then 2 each for Morris, Ashcroft, McLuggage. North Melbourne pretty ordinary today against Sydney. Swans, this was last night. Swans still missing heaps. So Goulden, Mills, Papley, Fox, Adams, McInerney, just some. That are still out for the Swans. They're starting to look like the team that they were last year. 4 goals each for Joel Marty and Will Hayward. One of the all-time mishits. I sent it in the groupie this morning. If you haven't seen poor Peter Laddams, it's a ruckman, of course.
He almost kicks you back to the centre square, bro.
Yeah, it nearly went backwards.
Yeah, it was bad.
It nearly went backwards, just straight off the outside of the boot, and we see some horrendous set shots these days in the AFL, that's for sure. This was up there. This may go down as 2025's worst set shots. Check it out. Completely off the outside of the boot. Maybe went 20 metres forward and about 30 metres to the left. Pretty ordinary set shot. At least it didn't cost him a game. Ruckman can be forgiven for doing that once or twice in a season. There's definitely one guy in the middle here that's, pot and kettle, I would say, when it comes to going for goal in set shots.
Yeah. You'd be lucky to hit a target.
Lucky to get my hands on the football. Take a contested mark inside 50. Interesting, Luke Parker, actually very good for North Melbourne against his old club in this one, 27 disposals, 2 goals, obviously not enough. She's always good, whether or not they lose. I think he had mid-30s as per usual. But Swannies looking like Sydney from last year in this one, that's for sure.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about their hangover because I thought they started the season a bit slow. Was this, again, one of those right the ship kind of games?
Yeah, definitely a get-right game. And I think they, much like Carlton, they lost that first game pretty close. 4 points it was against Brisbane in the AFL Grand Final rematch. And then they had that lucky, well, not lucky, but they won, in lucky circumstances against Freo where they had been behind and they fought back. And then there was a mark taken when the siren went and the ball was a second away from being marked. And again, bloke had to go back and kick, it's you can't just put it down to one play. But it's
the opportunity though.
That's right. They had a close loss, a close win. This was they're still pretty good at football.
I agree.
And then when all those guys return, like you're looking at all Australians in Goulden and Papley and experience in Mills and Adams and plus all the rest that aren't on that elite tier. They're going to be good. There's another Sydney team that's also pretty good. The Orange team, GWS. 2012, 132 beats West Coast 7-9-51. That was the biggest margin for the Giants against the West Coast Eagles, I believe, in their short history. The banner, I think I sent it in the groupie, something to do with Harley Reid.
Harley Reid chat.
We'll have you. Let me get it for in verbatim purposes.
There it is.
It's a nice escape. It's what you need. We'd be happy to have you, Harley Reid. Giants media team, we've seen
their banners are pretty good.
Seem to be pretty funny on social media. That's out there, I think, with a banner against a player that you're about to play against, saying, join those losers and come play.
A lot of talk
Got your jersey
about
ready half time. Just
that's right. That's right.
Well, there's a lot of talk he's not going to sign an extension with them, and there's treasure troves being war chests, if you will, being put together by Melbourne teams to potentially get him come home.
Be crazy if the reports from last season and the amount of money, the Dylan Brown deal we was talking about in the NRL is crazy. This could be even crazier if West Coast do come forward with what was reported last year.
He's looking at a 10-year deal, I
wherever,
think, and then for several millions of dollars. So he'll get paid regardless.
Watch this space. That will be spoken about all season. The Giants are pretty good. So Jesse Hogan outscored him in this game. 9 goals straight he kicked. He's only played 2 games. He's got 13 goals. I think he's second in the Coleman against guys that have played 4 games. If you wouldn't mind getting the Coleman leaders there. Yeah, Larky and Phil Thorpe are ahead of him, 14 apiece. Hogan in 2 games has 13, so pretty impressive there. Obviously, when you kick 9 goals straight, you're getting pretty good service, and you're clunking marks in somewhat sort of makeable sort of positions. You also still have to kick straight.
Yeah, exactly. Got to hit the target.
He had 10 kicks in this game for 9 goals straight. Pretty impressive type stuff.
Yeah.
Toby Green will have to look at match review. I think he's going to be okay. I don't think there was any. I don't think that's too bad. And Tom Green,
he's got a parking spot reserved out front, bro. He's there.
The article I was reading was saying he's only paid $75,000 over his career in fines, which I actually thought was unders for him, considering Jarge has paid that in the NBA after one pew. Yeah. Obviously, NBA money, AFL money, slightly different. Port need to get their ship steadied. They went down again today to St Kilda. This was one of the afternoon games. I haven't seen the end of this. 89-72.
Good for Saints, though.
Yeah, let me get some ball winners for you for St Kilda. Jack McRae's been pretty good since he's gone over there. 28 for him, 25 for Sinclair, 3 for the tip rat Higgins. So a few Jacks doing their work. Geez, we've got Jack Steele too. They might have 4 Jacks in the one team. There you go, St Kilda. Port, on the other hand, they lost to your mob last week, didn't they? So they won round 2 against Richmond, and they got hammered by Collingwood in round 1. So 1 and 3, and looked pretty ordinary in 3 of those losses. So slow starting, Port Adelaide. That's all right. They can get their act together, and Ken Hinkley can take them to the prelim.
And they lose again.
It's full house, good conditions, fast track from what I could see out there. Might watch some highlights and see what's wrong with Port Adelaide. Let's see who they've got upcoming. And obviously Gather Round is going to be big for both Adelaide teams. Port play Hawthorn. That's massive Sunday night.
Huge game.
Who did the Crom play? They kick us off Thursday night with Geelong. And Freo Bulldogs just finished, didn't it? I haven't seen any of this.
No.
Freo 97, Western Bulldogs 81. 5 goals in a losing effort for Sam Darcy. He's going to be a real problem.
Yeah, they're showing him on the
21 disposals, 11 marks, 5 goals in a losing effort. He's a freak.
That's crazy.
I think I was reading as well last year he was top 10 for contested marks inside 50, and he was like, he might have even been top 15 for goals, at 19 or 20, what he was last year. Wow. Pretty handy player.
Yeah, some young talent coming through.
For Freo, who actually won the game, let's have a look. 38 for Caleb Sarong. Without watching anything, he might be 3 votes there. 3 goals each for Frederick and Tracy. Should we have a look at these Gather Round fixtures. Crows play Geelong, Collingwood, Sydney, Adelaide Oval, Friday night. That's a big one. This Barossa Park, I don't know if you guys have seen it. AFL built like a purpose-built place out at the Barossa for this gather round. It's only 5,000 or 6,000, but it's sort of as good as a facility can get at that sort of size.
Yep.
Trying to bring in some interest.
Tight atmosphere.
That's right. They get North Melbourne Gold Coast. 6,000 fans or whatever the capacity is. That's fair enough. Carlton have their must-win against West Coast. Western Bulldogs play Brisbane. Melbourne and Essendon, they're starting to get close to must-wins. Richmond, Fremantle, St Kilda, GWS, and Port Adelaide play Hawthorn next week at Gather Round.
Do you want to do some stadium chat quickly?
Yeah, so you had a note there about the Gabba and the backflip. Will the Brisbane Lions be getting a new stadium?
Yes. So the mayor came out and... Governor? No, Governor's US. What mayor?
Mayor of Brisbane or the Premier?
Premier, that's what I'm going for. Premier of Queensland.
Politics chat.
Yeah, because they had
He's an Italian bloke, isn't
they've
he?
had their election recently.
Crisafulli.
Yeah, they've had their election recently. So
the Don, they call it.
the Don is in there now. Yeah. So they, as part of their election kind of promises were that they were, cost of living is a big thing and they weren't going to do a stadium. But he's gone, you know what, the 2032 Olympics is coming along. Fuck it, we're going to spend all this money and build the stadium. So they've finally officially agreed at the Victoria Park Stadium, just over 63,000. Will be the size of the stadium. So they're going to build that. They're going to build the aquatic centre, I think, as well out there.
It's going to be like a precinct.
Yeah, and they're going to build something else as part of that. So that's all going to be built for the Olympics. And then from then, so the 2033 season, the Lions could then move into it. So they're going to play in the Gabba to that point. But then from there, they'll demolish the Gabba and redevelop that. Yeah, I believe that's going to be the result. Turn it residential. Yeah. And then Victoria Park will be the home of the
makes sense now.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yes. So we talked about the how rundown the Gabba is, but it's not too bad.
Better or worse.
There's no Bruce Stadium.
Yeah, I was going to say better or worse than GIO.
Yeah. So they'll use that for the foreseeable future. And it's kind of funny because they got the Commonwealth Games, of course, and they're going to do they have? No, they didn't. Melbourne had the Commonwealth Games. Reneged on that. And then they had been talking about
Gab was like around there.
Yeah, they had been talking about upgrading the size of the athletics.
You Google it.
Yeah.
I went to Brisbane last year too. Just having a little laugh at my Google Maps. So Victoria Park precinct is just,
I think
just north
here somewhere.
Yeah,
it's right on the river.
It's not really. You could probably walk that.
It's kind of more in the sort of precincts. What's interesting about this announcement? There was actually no mention of Suncorp at all for the Olympics. So I'm assuming it's going to be used for something. But
soccer.
Don't know.
Soccer,
but
rugby sevens
has to be rugby.
You'd think so, but as part of this official announcement, they didn't talk about it. They just talked about all the new stuff that was going. They talked about what was it? I think they're going to play a lot of the soccer in Townsville. They were playing a lot of stuff.
Soccer, they normally will go around, they bring it out to regional places in the group stages. Yeah. But you can't tell, Townsville won't be hosting the gold medal games.
There was going to be a lot of something played in Townsville. I couldn't remember what it was. They talked about how the rowing's going to be on that river that's full of crocodiles and
don't fall in.
Don't fall in, etc. So they talked about some of that stuff, but of course the big announcement was that officially the stadium's happening. They've committed the money to it. It's going to get built. It'll cost more than they budget to, as you expect, and but Lions will end up with a new stadium in the end.
So according to Google AI, soccer will be played Brisbane, Gold Coast, Cairns.
Yep, Cairns,
and the new
63 seats
arena, will be the main venue.
Interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I wonder when. Can you go dates they might not have announced the exact dates, with our footy seasons as well. Yes. There might be some sort of conflict as well. Sydney Olympics, we're going back 25 years now, was in September. It wasn't a middle of summer Olympics as as they would be, say, if they were in North America or Europe.
Yeah. Do you have it, Jimmy? I think it sounds going to be similar.
End of July, early August.
Yeah, right.
Actually, that's
So
prime football season.
our winter, so it's our winter, smack bang in the North American summer. It makes sense given that Brisbane's hotter than Sydney or Melbourne, for if you want to go back to the 50s, and then from a viewership and not fucking around with NBA schedules and things like that.
Yeah.
I think our footy seasons might have a 2-week little break.
Yeah, yes.
We're also trying to predict 7 years in the future.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Or play more, maybe they do the Magic Round in Sydney, for example.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Which dates would State of Origin land on?
In
That would be
July.
around then. Again, I don't think they'll make any sort of conflicting stuff with Olympics there.
But that's why I meant,
Or do you
like,
have, like, a week
Suncorp,
where it's
I think it'll be
Sydney or
fine.
something
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think they're not going to use Suncorp as much. So it should, in theory, be free if they're for Origin.
Magic
Probably
Round
so.
PNG, let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, could you imagine having everything just in Brisbane for like 2 weeks? You got like Magic Round in Suncorp. You got
True. Just,
Olympics.
yeah.
Yeah.
Got it all together all at once. It'd be wild. But that is still 7 years away. So hopefully they'll break ground on that stadium soon, knowing how...
Get some construction going.
Yeah, we like to build things out here. The final stadium news was about Tasmania. There's a bit of beef going on between Cricket Australia and the AFL because cricket wants no roof, which makes sense in Tasmania. If they want to play more cricket games regularly in Tasmania, we don't want a roof. AFL's like, fuck that, we want a roof. If we're in Tasmania and the weather, can be cold, can be wet a lot. We want a roof. Otherwise, I'm not coming, I think was the... Because, the stadium's a big point of the reason that new franchise is being set up there in Tasmania. So, a bit of back and forth. The design they've got at the moment kind of in between. It's essentially looks like a mesh. It's like a giant net over it. Wouldn't stop any rain, but let sun through.
Doesn't stop the wind.
Yeah, so it's just like...
no birds are getting in.
Yeah, so it's a bit of an odd thing, but it'd be interesting to see... Again, how that plays out when they actually start building that stadium, what the design of the stadium is going to be, and then I'm assuming they'll cave to the AFL because they're bringing the franchise, and Cricket Australia will just have to make do. And if they want to play cricket there, they'll it'll have a roof on it.
Yep. The AFL will trump Cricket
100%.
Australia here.
We already saw that with Shield cricket. They're definitely not getting Adelaide Oval for that. But yeah. So that was all the recent Stadium AFL news.
Watch this space for stadium chat. All right, let's talk some NBA.
Curry sets, fires, puts it up, bang!
NBA play-in starts in 10 days. Playoffs proper, less than 2 weeks away. East is pretty much all sorted now. Okay, so Cavs 1 seed. I think we just about knew that last pod. They're 62-15. They're leading the league with points per game, 122. Both Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland averaging over 20 a game. And the bookies still have them second favourite behind the Celtics, who are into $1.62 to win the whole East. I think health is important here. So Porzingis is playing regularly, which means all 5 of their starters are healthy. Obviously, we saw what they could do last year, being the defending champs, and it's a lot of people are already saying that it's going to be a Thunder Celtics finals. I reckon pretty rare that we get both 1 seeds going.
Yes.
Well,
there's usually something.
Well, they're the 2 seed actually. Anyway, but it's quite rare that we get both favourites go through.
Yeah, I agree. I very much think it is a 2-horse race, and the reason I say that is because the Knicks against the Cavs and Celtics are 0-6. I believe is their record, so they haven't been able to beat the 2 of them. So I think, as we've been saying for many, many weeks, they're a class above everyone else in that conference.
Yeah, this mid-tier is interesting. Like, it's kind of a question of, well, can someone actually get to the Eastern Conference Finals to lose to one of these teams? Is kind of the way that I feel that it's shaping up. I'd like to be proven wrong. Knicks also still don't have Jalen Brunson, so his ankle sort of turned into about a 3-weeker, approaching a month now.
They
They might just be having him on ice until the playoffs start.
Yeah. they can't really improve their position from there. So
Cat playing pretty good without Jalen. So they'll most likely have the 3 seed going into it. Pacers in 4th. They're 46 and 31. They're $26 to win the East. The team that I think is interesting here in the mid section are the Bucks. Likely to be out without Dame indefinitely, is what they've said. So he had a DVT in his right calf. Yep. So the classic place to get a DVT as opposed to Wemby, who we'll get to in a second. And Shams had reported that he's okay to return to basketball activities, so he's okay to train in the next 7 to 10 days. These are ones as well that you don't want to rush as well.
That to me sounds more like light load than playing big minutes in a basketball game. So
correct. I don't even know if it means playing.
Yeah,
I think they might assess their situation after game 1, game 2. And I was listening to Brian Suderer, who's a good follow on YouTube, sports medicine guy, and he's like, these are ones that you don't want to rush because all the other soft tissue stuff is you rush it and you re-rupture and it's horrible and the athlete, this is like, you rush it and you mobilize a clot and it goes to their lungs or it goes to their heart. Yeah.
Go somewhere where it's not meant to go and then it's a huge risk.
So he was doubtful that Dame will be right for the playoffs at all. But then Shams coming out recently saying that, that it's quite cryptic, but returning to basketball activities, it's a watch this space. Can they just do it, go far off the back of the Greek Freak? He's put 30 plus up in his last 6 games.
Not bad.
They're $51 to win the whole East. I think that might be a bit of a stretch. But them going on a little bit of a run with one of the world's best players, I could see them maybe getting to the finals.
Yeah, I agree. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
The Eastern finals?
Yes.
Maybe?
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah, I agree.
And even that might be a bit of a stretch.
Yeah. Again, we think it's those 2 teams unless someone else gets hot, has some sort of insanity type month of basketball and, shock a few people. It can happen. But likelihood is, those 2 top teams have dominated all season. They'll continue to do so.
Pistons are a fun story. They're confirmed going to the playoffs, which is good. Too far ahead of Magic and Hawks to be caught. I don't think they'll go much further than that, but good for Detroit to have the Lions been good over the last few years and to have the Pistons back in the playoffs. We had spoken on previous eps before to actually win a playoff to get out of the first round. It's been a long time.
Yeah, very long time.
Over 20 years, I think.
Yeah, it would be 90s, wouldn't it?
No, they won the whole thing in 2004.
Okay, yes.
But it's like
I know they were.
It's like 2008 or 2009, I think. Maybe just get a list of Detroit Pistons season. Anyway, it's a long time. It's like 15 plus years.
Yeah.
They've made the playoffs in that time. They were 8 seeds both times, and they got bounced.
Yeah. So
to actually get it out of the first round, it's been a long time. Magic is sitting 7th. Paolo Banchero is actually looking good. When we come back from that oblique strain mid-season, we were like, he's not himself. He had single digits in one game. I was like, that's what the hell? That's not Paolo. He's had 3 40-point games this month, putting up over 25 every night. They'll presumably win a play-in. Will they actually get out of the play-in? Hard to tell. A lot of Aussie fans will keep their eyes on these next 2 teams.
Yep.
Atlanta with Dyson Daniels, not Dylan Dennis, Dyson Daniels.
Yep. Not Stormy Daniels.
Not Stormy Daniels. Not Alex Dyson, not Dyson Vacuums. Yep. Dyson Daniels.
Dyson Daniels.
They're actually sliding and sitting in 8th. There's a good chance that Aussie fans are going to have to choose between Dyson and Josh Giddey at some stage. Monks, have you got that there? Is it 07, 08 the last time they...
went deep.
07, 08. Yeah. So quick maths, 17 years since the Pistons got out of the first round.
Yep.
The Bulls, we've got to talk about this.
Yep.
It was last week, but it's happened since our last podcast, and it's maybe the craziest NBA moment by an Australian player.
Yeah. A caveat on that as well, as Giddey was good before then and he's been good since then. He's actually been playing really well for the Bulls. Definitely a great buy or trade for them. Definitely won that side, I believe, over there from the Thunder. But for how great of a moment this was a Giddy, it was very poor from LeBron, I think, leading up to it, causing the turnovers and I guess a bit of lackluster defense and getting thrown over essentially for Giddy's big moment there to, from over halfway, throw it down to get the 3 pointers to win.
One of the craziest finishes, and not just the buzzer beater, but the actual lead up into it over the last 90 seconds.
Giddy gets the steal from LeBron when he throws
on
it
the
in.
inbound.
Yeah. And then that gets him the bucket to take the lead, and then Rivers drives it in and gets the bucket back to retake the lead. And then with 2 seconds to go, gets the Giddy and he throws it down.
How about the call? This guy's name is Stacey King, and it's definitely been doing the rounds. Obviously, because of the circumstances, so incredible. But in verbatim, it was Elizabeth, I'm coming, baby. G'day, mate. Somewhere in Australia, Sydney or Melbourne. Paul Hogan, Crocodile Dundee, and then kind of illegible, just screaming.
He was just trying to get any Australian referencing you out. That's the way I feel about it.
Well, I didn't know what the hell Elizabeth, I'm coming, baby meant. I don't think much of the internet knew either. It's a reference to American sitcom Sanford and Son. One of the characters would feign dying and say to his mother up in heaven, I'm coming up to heaven.
It didn't sound like that, though. On the call, it sounded like something else.
It did sound like something else. And then, g'day, mate. Somewhere in Australia, Sydney, Melbourne, Paul Hogan, Crocodile Dundee. Sound like borderline racist.
Yeah, you could have thrown in Steve Irwin, Stingrays. That's
it. But it's funny as fuck. And obviously good follow is for their NBA recreations and all just sort of commentary recreations, shipmates on socials. Nailed it. And had that video up within a few hours of it happening. So go check that out if you haven't. And if you haven't actually seen it, you maybe have just come back from Papua New Guinea or somewhere, uncontacted tribes, because all I was seeing that for a few days after that happening down here was the replay. Yeah.
I've seen a lot on the socials about a potential nickname for Giddy. It's got the double meaning. Get named as the Predator. One for being, I guess, being very good at basketball and being very surgical and dominant, if you will. And then also some of the history as well.
That's the only reason.
The other reason was because he, in ancient history, came down and fought a bunch of aliens that were living in Antarctica or something along those lines. And he also killed a bunch of Arnold Schwarzenegger's mates back in the 80s. That's the other reason.
That's the other reason. 100% the other reason. And so I'm not sure if I love or hate it, but it's massive on the social medias. Of course, they love giving him that nickname, but I don't think it'll stick with him long term.
I can't imagine he likes it that much.
I can't imagine he likes it either. No. I've also seen a lot of P. Giddy as well.
He did nothing wrong. Fully acquitted.
We might call him our Josh.
Our Josh.
Our Josh. That's good. It's like our Kathy, our Josh.
Yeah.
Anyways, Bulls, Hawks, they'll be there for play-ins. Be interesting to see if some Aussies get into the playoffs.
Yeah, Lions through everything else.
And the Heat will also be there. I'd be spewing actually if the Heat beat one of these Aussie boys and knock them out.
Considering how poor they've been.
They've just been complete tank mode since Jimmy Buckets left the building. Also worth mentioning, Raptors, Nets, 76ers, Hornets, Wizards getting ready for the off-season. 76ers are on an 11-game losing streak and they've won 4 games since January. So through the months of February and March, and we're a week into April, they've won 4 games, and that roster is way too talented, I think, to be finishing 13th.
Well, I think the main thing is none of them are playing.
That is true. That is also true.
Yes.
Yeah.
They've shut them all down, essentially.
Yep.
So, like you said, full tank mode.
Let's head over to the West, where it's much more interesting in the final week. So 1 and 2 are set. Thunder 11-game win streak before they lost yesterday to the Rockets, who are second. Thunder $1.62 to win the West. It's very short. But let's go through the rest of the West here. Rockets pretty much have the 2 seed. They do finish at Warriors, at Clippers, at Lakers versus Denver. So there is a world where they could lose all of those, and the Lakers could possibly jump them. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yep.
Lakers are third, 47-30. They're $8 to win the West. LeBron and Stephen A. sort of continued.
Typical.
Since last
Gets clicks, gets views, keep going.
Does.
Yeah, we spoke about it 2 weeks ago. I don't know if we did.
Yeah, nothing's really changed. It's
Talking
just more
about
of the
it,
same shit.
maybe if you do want to get a Joker versus SGA stat line up there, because a lot of people, despite how good Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been this season, are saying, well, you know, the NBA just wants a new MVP and they're getting sick of Joker winning it every year. Since our last podcast, he put up a 61-point game.
Triple-double.
Triple-double. And had that stupid 3/4 time buzzer beater, like football throw.
Yep.
And then just sort of casually walks off and the stadium's going mental. I know you as a sort of Denver sports fan.
See a lot of it.
Your feelings are probably that he is the MVP. Could you play devil's advocate and have an argument for Shai, or do you just think it's the NBA just wants a new sort of winner?
Well, I think you've covered it before. He scored the most points this season, and he's on the team that's won the most games. Like that's the 4 SGA. But if you look at everything else, that's all Joker. So
the crazy one was steals.
Yeah.
The fact that a big man he was top 3 for steals per game.
And that's
Can you check that?
And that's the thing. Like I think he's third or second. Is he second behind Daniels?
He might be now.
Might be, yeah.
Well, and that was the other category where SGA was really high, is steals, whereas obviously boards and assists.
He's not. But I think, the storyline there is no player has ever been in the top 10 of those 4.
Yeah.
And he's top 3 and 4.
And might not win the MVP.
And might not win the MVP, yeah.
Probably won't win the MVP.
Yes. Yeah.
So we've got the head-to-head here. Shai's played 8 more games, okay? So in terms of durability, we go towards Shai. His team's won more games as well. They're short price favourites to go through from the West. So advantage Shai. Points per game, 29.8 for the Joker, 32.6 advantage Shai.
Yeah.
Then after that,
but you got to remember Joker's
swing back the other way.
Yeah. You got to remember Joker's third though. So Shai's 1 in that category. He's third.
Yes.
So he's not like he's significantly behind.
You're not trouncing him. No.
Yeah.
But then when we go to rebounds, obviously the big man's.
He's averaging a triple-double.
Yep.
So,
That in itself is crazy. So this is Joker's average stat line, 29.8 points, 12.8 rebounds, 10.2 assists, 1.8 steals per game for a centre is obscene. And then from an efficiency standpoint as well, higher field goal percentage, 58%, and shooting 42% from threes.
Yep.
Shai better free throw shooter.
Yeah, get a few more
90% versus 80%.
Jokes, but
it's pretty wild, man.
I think if you throw in the fact that he's had that 60-point triple-double, only the third person to do it. Had the 30-20-20 in this season as well. Only person to do it.
First person to do that.
Yeah, and he is by far the best basketball player, I think, in basketball by that measure. It's just his team hasn't won as many games this year. I think it's a big difference. I did see this case stat today that the Nuggets' offensive efficiency when Jacob plays is number 1 in the league. When he's not playing and not on the field, they're 30th. They're last.
Really?
So for a most valuable player, he is very valuable
Very
for
valuable
that
to his
team.
organisation.
Yeah. So, and considering his comparison to himself, his previous 3 MVPs, this is by far his best season.
Yeah, there's no market now for SGA on Sportsbet. So we had been watching him come in, $1.20, $1.12, I think we got to. I was expecting maybe $1.01, $1.02, something like that now. You can have a punt on Joker at $20, but there is no Australian market to put money on SGA. So it's if the bookies know anything, and they often do, it's give it to SGA now.
Yeah. I kind of think it's unfortunate though. Like, I think it should be a bigger conversation than it is.
Yeah, I think the conversation.
And I think Joker's just been getting since mid-season where it was kind of like SJ's definitely getting it. He's played better, so and he's been throwing out some of these ridiculous games as well. Like
the 30-20-20 was like I didn't know that was a thing, and then I started thinking, well, like there's like Wilt or someone like. done it, but they didn't get the assists.
No.
So, yeah, it's
The contribution to his team, and I think that fact of he has to play well for them to win is kind of leads to that point. But again, he hasn't. Their team hasn't won the most
They
games.
just haven't won as much games.
The other thing
If they'd won 10 more games, I think it's a very different conversation.
could be.
But it's
Could you look up when assists were recorded as a stat in the NBA? Because I can't imagine that was happening in the 60s. Probably came in the 70s. I would think definitely by the 80s. Maybe that's the only other thing there. But basketball was played very differently.
Yeah, definitely.
In those days too.
Considering I'm looking at Joker's 3-point percentage there
40,
for a big man.
42%. And it's nearly like it's required now of your bigs to be able to shoot the three ball, which is crazy to think of. See when they started to record assists as a stat.
So being on this end of the table,
I'm full of shit. It's 46-47. So he's just that again.
He's just a freak.
It's just a freak. He's just doing things that it's never been done before.
Yeah, and I'm overly biased on this end of the table. I think he should probably win based on everything I've seen for being the best player in the league. But
I'll be less biased and say
he's getting the LeBron treatment. So
I think he's getting a bit of LeBron treatment, and they want another person to win the award. SGA, I think him and Joker should be relatively on par. You should be able to have the conversation.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying from what I've seen this season.
It should be a competitive voting where it comes down to the last couple of votes kind of thing. Instead of it's going to be the landslide.
The NFL was a good one this year. I think we were super close with Lamar and Josh. And then again, it's kind of similar in some regards in that Lamar statistically was having his best year to date. But not a perfect comparison, but kind of current MVP race, which is sort of similar.
Yep.
All right, let's keep going down the West. The Warriors are into $7 to win the West, in from 21 from the last podcast. So they're shooting up the standings and shortening in with the bookies. There's a bloke called Steph Curry who's pretty good at basketball. He put up 52 points, 10 assists at Memphis a few nights ago. They're 5 games on the trot and have been much better since Jimmy Butler's come across. And we'll probably still get to see the best of Jimmy Buckets, and we all know what he can do in the playoffs. Yep. A lot of people actually have them sort of starting to be the real threat here to the Thunder, as opposed to, say, the Nugs and Lakers, which is what's been speculated all season. Into T-Wolves, a little scare with Anthony Edwards. He rolled an ankle on the Nets coach. I think he's fine. I don't think it's going to affect his playoff run.
Didn't he play today?
Yeah.
I think he had that huge poster today.
I don't think he even missed the game. No. I think it was just a scare. He missed some minutes, and they're like, oh, shit. Not now. But no, he's all sweet. Clippers are looking pretty good as well. They've won 6 from 7. We already spoke about Jar at the top of the show. Probably needs to put the toy gun away. And then elimination play-in is very likely between Mavs and Kings, so 9 and 10.
Yeah, I was just going to say, do you think the Suns at all, or
I don't
are
think
they
so.
definitely
No, they're 2 games behind, and they don't have any defense. They don't have a good center. Yeah, I think they're done. Which is pretty.
Durant's probably
which is crazy
as well.
Well, to think that a team with
Durant, Booker.
Durant, Booker, Beal, can't make play-ins. Yeah, it does make you wonder what has gone on with them because, again, they're way too talented a roster. It is, again, it highlights the discrepancy between the East and the West. If they're not coming 11th if they're playing in the East, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, where does 35 and 42 get them in the East?
Based on their record,
they'd be 9th.
They'd be 9th or 10th. They'd be in that playing conversation. But I also think their record wouldn't be that
bad.
If they played in the East. Blazers done, Spurs done. A little update with Wemby. He had his DVT surgery last week. So from what I could see online, thoracic outlet decompression. So either they would have loosened off one of his scalene muscles in the neck or possibly even moved a rib around, take a bit of pressure off It's the blood vessels and the nerves coming out into the arm. Obviously his season's done. The question now is in the summer, I think France has got a fair few games on an international level. Will he be right for them? Unfortunate, obviously, about the Spurs, but we spoke about it when it got announced. Pels, Jazz, done. So, interesting. 1 will be Thunder, 2 will be Rockets, then 3 through 6 at the moment is completely wide open. There's only one game between Lakers, Nuggets, Warriors, T-Wolves, Clippers, Grizzlies. So that's 3 through 8, I should say. And then it's looking like Mavs and Kings will have that elimination play in, but probably not much further.
AD back for the Mavs, actually, and has been playing pretty well.
Massive. I think we spoke about it last week. Kyrie ACL's a couple of weeks old now. Their season has just gone to shit.
Getting some of their troops back, though, that are from their long injury list. But I don't think they'll be challenging anyone.
Not deep down the stretch, I don't think. Hall of Fame announcement. So they're not actually in the Hall of Fame just yet, but they
to be enshrined.
Will go into the Hall of Fame in September. Carmelo Anthony, Dwight Howard, I think both very deserving, and especially for people of our age, old enough to sort of know when they went into the league and then sort of follow them through their whole careers. Melo, this is a crazy little stat you put in there, Sean. Do you want to run us through it? Because it's nearly hard to believe.
Yeah, since 2014, 2015, the year Embiid was drafted, I think it's the caveat there. So Melo's already
well established.
The 12th year in the NBA at that point. Since then till today, Melo played 470 games. Embiid's only played 452. Caveat on that, Melo's also been retired 3 seasons. So
that's crazy. If you said to me, who do you think's played more basketball in the last 10 years in the NBA, Carmelo Anthony or Joel Embiid, I would be like, I know Embiid's missed a lot, but surely it has to be Joel. No. Melo.
Yeah, kind of goes to the durability of Melo, but and then the issues with Embiid. And during the week, they announced that he's going in for knee surgery to, I guess, have a look around, clean up, etc.
Yeah, that was always going to happen. I think he had the meniscectomy last year, rushed him back maybe for playoffs. Completely different kettle of fish this year with them not even being in contention, can shut him down. And we'll probably have some more extensive knee surgery this time around, I would say.
I think come off season, they're going to move him, get as much as they can for him now, and then whatever team's going to get him is going to realise his knees are shot. Hopefully for his sake, he can have a longer career, but it's worrisome. I
traded him for Dame Lillard in the start of our fantasy season this year, and people were like, "Are you sure, man?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm not liking what I'm seeing in these first couple of weeks." Worked out pretty good until Dame got hurt, but I definitely didn't regret that decision.
Yeah. So both of them made lots of All-Stars, Defensive Player of the Years, etc. So they were. I think both very deserving.
100%.
These results.
Yeah, I think when you think of 2000s basketball, obviously Kobe and LeBron probably come to mind, but these guys in Melo and Dwight probably not that far off.
Yep. 1 gold medals for the Olympics as well. So,
All right. Play-in 15th of April. Playoffs start 19th of April. It's a fun time of year in the NBA.
Yes, sure is.
All right, mates, let's talk some other round ball. Let's talk some football/soccer. I'll just let you get the EPL standings up there. There's a few big sort of stories coming out this week. KDB announced to be leaving Manchester City at the end of the year. That's Kevin De Bruyne. There's already speculation as to where he's going to go. Is it going to be into Miami? Is it going to be the Middle East? Nothing confirmed.
How old is he now?
30 maybe?
33.
He's 33. Yeah, he's a bit older than I thought.
Yeah.
I think, still very, very good. Let's have a look here.
He's on 117 mil going to that. So some good change.
So he's coming to West Indies Wanderers.
Maybe he's 50s if he's still playing.
So he said, football led me to all of you. This city, chasing my dream, not knowing this period would change my life. This city, this club, these people gave me everything. I had no choice but to give everything back, and guess what? We won everything. Yeah, as much as I've hated Manchester City over the last 10 years, he's been instrumental in their success. Incredible centre attacking mid, lethal from outside the box, and also for assisting players to score. As it stands, 413 appearances for City, which is pretty crazy. 106 goals and 118 assists. So that's actually second all time for Premier League assists, which is pretty crazy. Nothing in this as to where he may end up, I don't think.
Madrid, Chelsea.
It won't be. It won't be in England, I wouldn't think. I think, the things that I saw was Middle East or Inter Miami. Standings are up there. Liverpool are pretty much home now. They're
6 to go.
Yeah. They've got 8 games to go. Arsenal's already played, so they're 9 points clear of Arsenal. No, sorry, that's bad maths. 11 points clear of Arsenal with a game in hand. Yeah. So could, by tomorrow, go 14 points clear of Arsenal. So it's all theirs.
All-time bottling if they don't win it from there.
Yep, 100%.
Next.
Not Forest 3, Chelsea 4. It's very tight in this run for those last two.
With City not behind them.
That's right. So this is 3 through 7. Let's go.
City get
Not Forest 57, Chelsea 52, Chelsea 51, Aston Villa 51, Newcastle 50. So Notts have played an extra game from Chelsea and Man City too as well. So Chelsea and City really lurking there.
When's that Manchester game?
Yeah, that's overnight, is it?
Yes.
So it's Monday our time. It's in 4.5 hours.
Yep.
That's big.
And Chelsea beating Spurs 1-0 through the week. That was massive for a few reasons. Obviously for their own Champions League aspirations, but the big talking point, especially for Australian fans of English football, is was that the final nail in the coffin for Ange Postecoglou. They're 30 games. They've lost 16 of those. I was listening to a Tottenham podcast. Apparently in the Premier League era, that's a record number of losses for them through 30 games. They're 34 points. They've haven't won in their last 4 outings. Their London Derby record under Ange is horrible. Okay, so against both Chelsea and Arsenal, they I don't actually know if they've won a Premier League matchup between those two teams under Ange. The only thing that they've got going for them at the moment is the Europa League, which we'll get into in just a minute. There's always two things go on, and it sort of goes back to Michael Voss before as well. Different sport, but fan base is very passionate. Yep. The thing that I worry about with Ange is not that he's losing the players, is that he's lost the fan base. Yeah. So in this Chelsea game, he's getting a chance of you don't know what you're doing from his own lot of heat from his own end. They're not liking the substitutions that he's making. Sarr goes out and scores a goal. He's turning around, cupping in his ear to his own fans. Okay. So obviously they're getting under his skin. And then in the post-match press, that goal got disallowed on VAR 5 minutes later. Say what you will about that. I think that's egregious in itself. That's where the VAR's gotten to. There's got to be a statute of limitations or something for VAR to go back. But yeah, clearly his own fans getting under his skin if he's turning around to do that. He's then gone out in the presser, and it's typical English grub journalism, trying for a gotcha moment, and he's fiery wog from down under, standing his own ground, and maybe he does just need to sort of smile and wave in those presses, and try and keep what his thoughts to himself. But he's given it back to the journo, and then sort of covering for himself, saying, well, I wanted them to cheer about something. They haven't had much to cheer about, and it seemed a bit sort of transparent, I thought. Having said that, I want him to succeed, and I want him to stay
definitely
in the EPL, and the amount of intrigue that it's caused for Aussie fans. We've never had a manager in the EPL before.
Yeah. And there's not a lot of dudes running around in the EPL at the moment,
if he loses his job, there's not going to be, unless he goes to another club in the EPL, which I probably don't see happening.
Unlikely, no.
We may not see it happen for a long time.
Yep.
What I find really strange there as well, the goal difference.
Yeah.
So
they win big when they win, and when they lose, they always lose by
just lose.
That's where he's always whinging about decisions and injuries and this and that. And I think a lot of that, is probably valid as well. They've been fucked by a few decisions, and they haven't had their list. But also, it's the Premier League for a reason. And there's a lot of games where they should be, salvaging a point where they end up losing it. All of that's, the numbers don't lie. You can't just keep crying, decisions, when you're 30 games into the season. I don't think.
No, yeah.
Look, they're not going to get relegated. The relegation zone's
it's
done.
sorted.
It's going to be Ipswich, Leicester, Southampton. They're Ogonskis. There was a point, say a month, 6 weeks ago, where we were talking about United, Everton, and Tottenham all, in danger. I think it's now going to be Europa or bust. They run into a Frankfurt side who's running pretty good. They're third in the Bundesliga at the moment. That first game, April 10th, so midweek this week. If they get through the semi-finals and then, give themselves a shot at some silverware, I don't know if you can, if they win the Europa League, can you sack him? I don't know. It's silverware. Yes,
silverware.
It's Div 2 Europe, yes, but look at the clubs that are still there.
Yeah, it's showing promise.
Rangers, his whole club. Celtic's his old club, but Rangers are there. Lazio's there. Bilbao's there. Lyon's there. United's there. Like, there's some pretty reasonable clubs there. There's Borde Glint, I'm sure I've said that right, from Norway, which no one's heard of. But look, there's still some pretty classy outfits there. If they get out, if they, 2 games are done against Frankfurt and finish 16th in the league, in a cutthroat league, I don't think he's going to be there. Yep. So we're obviously wanting you to succeed, Ange, and obviously Australia loves to see an Aussie there, but we are also a little realistic here too.
Yes, yeah.
Also, a good thing for Aussie soccer fans is the Socceroos actually turning their fortunes around a little bit in the World Cup qualifiers with massive wins at home against Indonesia and then away at China. I don't know if you guys saw the atmosphere there in the Chinese game. I think there was about 80,000 people in there, pretty much everyone decked in red and singing songs, and that would have been an intimidating atmosphere to go in and get a win out there for the Socceroos. So taking 6 points out of that international break, which was do or die, because we have Japan and Saudi Arabia still to play. Yep. So Japan are through, and Monks, just see if you can bring up the position that we're in now. We won't find out until June, I think. Those last 2 games are still a while away. And if we finish third as well, we have to go through.
We get another chance.
Yeah, we're not out, but you don't want to finish third.
No. So I think we're kind of safe in the fact that I don't think we can finish lower than third. But we're not going to be an automatic qualifier yet. We need to, of course,
1 or 2 gets you automatic.
Yeah.
Keep scrolling down. So that's the round. That's the round before. So you might need to go. Yeah, third. Is it third round? I think go up there. Yeah, third round. Yeah, that's it. All right, so Group C, Japan, 20 points they're in. We're now 3 points clear, same games played, of Saudi Arabia, and 4 points clear of Indonesia, with our goal difference +7. Saudis -2, Indos -6. So that win against Indonesia was a 5-1 win as well, really important for the goal difference.
Do we have one more game? So how do I read that?
2. So we've got to play Japan and Saudi Arabia, 6 in the group, so you play 10 games. Yep.
I see it now.
So we and defensively have been pretty good. We've only conceded 6 in 8 games. So given the goal difference is where it's at, really one draw should be sufficient. If you can draw both, that'd be great. If you win one, we're sweet.
Yep. But probably they're also the 2 hardest.
They're the two hardest teams to play. One good thing is that Japan may not have a whole lot to play for, other than a fair rivalry these days between Japan and Australia in soccer. And the other thing that we've got going against us is Saudi Arabia's other games against Bahrain, who've only won one game. So they'll be nipping at our heels. So it may really come down to that Australia-Saudi Arabia fixture. So we play Japan 5 June, and we play
10th against Saudi Arabia.
10th, yep. Good eyes there. So that'll be the international break, start of June. That'll do us for some soccer, I think. Let's get into a final round. UFC 314 is next weekend. That feels like it has crept up really, really quick.
It has.
So massive, again, for Aussie fight fans, with Alexander Volkanovski taking on Diego Lopez for the vacant featherweight belt, with Ilia Topuria vacating it. What's our thoughts here? Obviously, Volk coming off 3 losses now, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not and 1 to Ilia.
Yeah, we're not used to seeing Volk slide. I'll get you his age as well here, because he is starting.
Not a spring chicken.
Starting to get a little bit old Volk. He's 36. 36. Lopez is 30. So it's time definitely on the side of the Brazilian. But historically, Volkanovski's used to being a champ. He'll be itching it a bit to go and get this done at UFC 314. Shauno, what's your thoughts?
I think that's my concern is Volk's chin. Because I think skill-wise, he's better than Diego Lopez all over the place. So I think if he can eat those shots that Diego can put out, I think he wins and can probably win comfortably. But that's my concern. The recent losses and early stoppages in those 2 fights by knockouts, and that's my concern there. The
second Islam fight was particularly concerning, I think, with the KO.
But he was rushed back into that fight like short notice. But and then to back that up straight away into Ilia after what was that? Another 4 or 5 months later. He's had a good break though, I think, which was he needed.
Yeah, a full year.
A full year. So let's hope that that's cleared those cobwebs and he'll be able to deal with that, because Diego's very hittable, but he also is unique, interesting, throws some wildish kind of stuff. He's not your stereotypical kind of stand-up fighter. So I think overall, like I said, Volk should be better than him basically everywhere, and it's just whether Diego can get some of that, funny stuff off and really trouble Volk, which could end it early. That's my concern.
And much like Volk's previous fights against pretty much everyone, Lopez is going to be much taller at 5'11".
Yep.
And maybe the grappling, Diego might fancy himself, with the BJJ background.
Yeah. He usually doesn't I think if he's on the ground, he uses that, but I don't think many try to wrestle him.
Well,
and then
Volk's had a fair few finishes as well of late.
Yes. And Volk's not really a
knockout artist.
No, but a wrestler. He's good enough to defend himself in most cases, but he's very much a guy that likes to engage on the feet. Yep. So, and I think that's probably how this fight will go. And it'll just be, can he weather the early flurry and then take over the deeper rounds? That's the way I think it'll go.
These are the victories for Lopez recently: Brian Ortega, Dan Ige, Sodiq Yusuf, Pat Sabatini, Gavin Tucker. Ortega, Ige, bigger names. And
Ortega's the big one of that.
Yeah, no one massive compared to, say, Volkanovski's.
Where's Diego ranked? Is he 5th?
Yeah, I feel like he's 5. Let me get it up here for you. UFC rankings.
So hopefully return to form for Volk, but that's my concern. I have that concern with the recent history and the way they've ended on big shots.
He's 3 now.
Okay.
And that's even with Tupuria with the
Vacated.
C. Yeah. So Volk 1 versus Lopez 3. Holloway's 2. Mosfaz 4. Yair Rodriguez is 5. Ortega's 6.
Yep.
Go Volk.
Yes,
You'll definitely
go
have all of Australia behind you next weekend. This is a fun fight, isn't it? It's obviously a bit of a marketing dream with Michael Chandler going up against Paddy the Baddie Pimblett.
Yes. Big step up for Pimblett.
Yeah, massive. Yeah.
But it's been 2 years since Michael Chandler last fought because he's been chasing McGregor for forever. So
I'll get it up. I feel like it's not that long. Let's have a look.
it might feel that way, but I think it's going to end up being maybe 18 months. It's going to be a while because he spent all of last year, I think, trying to get that fight.
Except for
Oliveira. I think you're thinking between those
yes.
two. Yeah.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, then he came back and fought Oliveira. Yeah.
because that was going to
That
be
was 2 years.
Yeah, that was 2 years.
Between
Yes,
Poirier and Oliveira was 2 years.
Yeah.
But he
And that
didn't
Oliveira
get the
fight
McGregor
was
fight.
supposed to be the McGregor fight, wasn't it?
Well, no, I don't think it was ever going to be McGregor.
Yeah.
He,
There had been talk about that, but he had been pushing for it, but I think McGregor, again, pulled out. And didn't
Yeah.
So he fought Charles. That makes sense, yeah. And, McGregor's too busy trying to become president of Ireland. So I don't think he's ever fighting again, honestly.
Given how politics works these days, stranger things have happened.
Yes.
Yep.
Paddy the Baddie's 30, actually a little older than what I thought, given he had that pretty rapid rate
Been in
rise
the UFC
up.
4 years now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To 2021, September 2021.
I'm working towards 4 years. Yeah.
Yep. Hasn't lost in the UFC. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wins in the UFC. It's probably the biggest name being Tony Ferguson. But
King Green has a decent name too. So yeah.
Although I agree with what you said before, it seems like a bit of a step up in class for Paddy the
Check
Baddie.
his rankings. I didn't think he had one.
I reckon he might have
Might
had
be
to get one
15.
for 12 now.
There you go, he's in 12.
Because he didn't have one
Chandler's
for ages.
there at 7. But that is a very
Lightweight stacked, man.
stacked division. Though.
Sarukian, Oliveira, Gaethje, Holloway,
Always in there,
Poirier, Dan Hooker, Michael Chandler. There's killers everywhere. Plus the pound for pound champ in Makhachev at the top.
Yep.
Other fights we've got on the card, a few other featherweights. So this would be interesting. I don't know if Volk's going to be too interested in watching fights before his, but he'll know who wins them, I would imagine. Bryce Mitchell takes on Jean Silva, and Yair Rodriguez takes on Patricio Pitbull.
Yeah, I think that Rodriguez fight's actually probably, if you go back to his rankings there, because he was 5, I think.
Might need to search for Yair because there's multiple Rodriguez's. Yeah,
I can see he's 5. And then where's Pitbull?
Doesn't have a ranking.
Doesn't have a ranking. So yeah, and then Mitchell's there at 13, and Silva doesn't have a ranking. So yeah, a bit of guys kind of try and come in for some rankings and take on them. So kind of working out some of that division there. I think both fun fights. Don't really have a favourite in either. Bryce Mitchell's been saying some interesting things.
He always does.
So you can look at those and figure it out. But and then to round it out, they got a pretty good light heavyweight fight there with
Dominic Reyes.
Yeah, as the name in that fight. But
Do you know much about that Nikita Krylov that he's fighting?
I don't. Do you have him there, Jimmy?
No, I can bring it up.
I'm just looking up some odds for next week.
Yeah. But it's a pretty good card, I think, up and down. And then, as we mentioned, they've got the 315 is Muhammad taking on Delhi.
So another massive fight for Aussie fight fans. Okay, so Volk is $1.70 to take on Lopez, $2.15, slight favourite. Interesting, Paddy Pimblett, $1.60 favourite against Michael Chandler. Obviously has youth on his side there. Gene Silva, the unranked fighter, is the favourite in that one, $1.30 versus Bryce Mitchell, $3.50. Yair Rodriguez, $1.50 against Patricio Pitbull, $2.50. And then Krylov is actually the favourite against Reyes, $1.50 versus $2.50.
It's been 2 years since he last fought. Read that.
Crazy.
Yep. Nikita Krylov.
Yeah.
He's been in the UFC for a while.
Yeah, he has.
few big fights there too. Gustafson, Ozdemir,
Like Walker,
Johnny
Teixeira's
Walker,
in there, Paul Craig, Gustafson. Yeah.
Blahovic.
Must be very forgettable, unfortunately.
Well, a fair few losses in there as well. But he's strung 3 wins together in a row.
I mean, the wins he has had.
So
Maybe it's just the other
OSP, Johnny
layoff.
Walker, Gustafson, Ozdemir, like they're big scalps.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We'll see what he's got in a few weeks. Tim Su wins today against Joey Spencer. Was that a 4th round, I think I saw?
4th round thrown in the towel. So it was good for him to kind of right the ship, as you will. Because, coming off 3 losses, was it?
I think it was 3, yeah.
After holding a belt. I think he needed the kind of dominant performance that he showed, get his confidence back, the world beater that he was after suffering the bad card and kind of seeming a bit worried about it in the subsequent fights. It's good to see him get back in the...
Just the 2,
yeah.
Fundora and then Murtazali.
Yeah, and he just looked off in that second fight. So it's good to see him get back. He did call out Keith Thurman after that, and he himself had just won his comeback fight after 4 years, I think, taking a break.
4 years.
Yeah, Thurman's also, though... Was he undisputed? I think he had 3 belts, at least. Was a world champion, so he's a big name, but he fought in Australia recently to kind of is his comeback fight.
Former unified.
Yeah, former unified. So
36 years of age.
Had a dominant win himself in that last one.
His only loss is to Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah.
But he hasn't fought much either. He's only had a couple fights in the last 5 years.
Yeah. So he'd taken one fight in... Well, beside that fight I mentioned in March that he won, he'd won one fight this side of COVID. So,
interesting call out.
Yeah, but he is a big name. He just won a fight in Australia, has been fighting in Australia, so he can potentially, even with that break, he's still relatively young. Could come back and have a big fight in Australia, and for both of them, it's the winner kind of pushes their way back into the America circuit, back into say big belt contention, which they're both interested in. So hopefully for Zoo, he can they put that fight together, and we'll see what comes of it.
It's just nice to see him back in the winner's circle, that's for sure.
Yes,
definitely.
We're just talking a little bit of cricket here, given that it's dying down in terms of our summer. But we've mentioned it a couple of times in the pod. South Australia being champs for the first time in
good game of cricket.
25 plus years. Great game of cricket. They were all over him in the first innings. I think skittled them for 85. A Queensland team that included both Usman Khawaja and Marnus Labuschagne. Neither of them did a whole lot in that first innings.
95.
It was, I said 85, 95, my mistake. It was Michael Neser that his handy 34 sort of got him close to 100. And Brendan Doggett, I think, was bowling insane. Just scroll down for us. He had 6 for 31 in the first innings, and I think he got 5 in the second.
Yeah, he got 10.
And then South Australia went out and made 271 in their first innings. Very ordinary start with Henry Hunt and Nathan McSweeney both getting quackers. Did see Cricket Australia contracts just come out. Nathan McSweeney not on there.
Yeah, interesting.
A bit stiff. I thought, given that he just played Test cricket, doesn't mean he can't play Test cricket, just means he's not a contracted player.
Yes.
And then Jake Lehman, who had some sort of Shields season, 102 in the first innings. And the last time South Australia won was when his dad was playing for him. This Callum Vidler is a guy to keep an eye on. 4 for 64. He bowls wheels. He's not super tall, so he doesn't get heaps of bounce, but for his height, bowls very quick.
Like Jai Richardson?
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable comparison. So pretty handy lead going into the second innings, and then Queensland really fought their way back into this with 445. Jack Clayton, 100. Jack Wildermuth, 111, batting 8. Had Mark Steckety hanging around with him with 51. So what were they? They were 6 for 221 and then ended up doubling their score from that position. Pretty incredible kind of stuff. Dogger got the 5 for in this one. Not as impressive as his first innings, but still 5 for 109. Pretty impressive. He had 11 in the match. I think it was first or second in the Shield finals for match figures, which is pretty impressive given the storied history of the Sheffield Shield.
Yep.
South Australia go out there, and again off to a horrendous start with 3 for 28 when Hunt, McInerney and McSweeney were in the sheds. And then Jason Sanger, who had sort of been thrown a bit of a lifeline by South Australia to go over there and take up a contract with a struggling sort of Shield outfit, repaying the faith with 126 not out in a final. Obviously meant a lot to him. And Alex Carey, who equalled the most tons in the Shield this year, despite only playing half the games. He's very good at cricket.
He's very good.
Had 105 in this one.
Yeah.
And we actually saw a bit of excitement around the Sheffield Shield. Adelaide, a very good sporting town. You know, obviously we see the Crows
Love their cricket.
and Port Adelaide do very well, but obviously a lot of support for the Strikers in the Big Bash.
Yep.
And when, it was announced that it was going to be Karen Rolton Oval, not Adelaide Oval due to footy clashes, I think it sold out pretty quick.
Yep.
So they had a lot of people in there.
Crowds on the hill.
And a nice little pitch invasion at the end there to see some pretty cool scenes for the Redbacks.
Yep. A few blokes getting off with stumps as quickly as they could.
This was nearly mop-worthy, but whoever was running the graphics for Channel 7 had another SA winning the Sheffield Shield, that SA being South Africa, with the green and gold Proteas emblem behind the newsreader. Talking about the Shield final. Mainstream media, man.
That's it. What happened to fact-checking? Like, everything's fake news nowadays.
It's all AI, mate.
It also it also says South Africa cricket final. Bring it up here.
I'm sorry.
Nothing about this emblem screams South Australia. Like the colours are...
They've literally just Googled SA cricket and then gone first image, that one, done.
Yeah. Okay, that'll do.
You tell there's budget cuts, the production team's probably down to one intern, so...
No, I think maybe the one that says it maybe says SA cricket on it.
Yeah, it says it's that one. I'm 100% sure.
You reckon it's that one there? It says SA. It doesn't say South Africa on it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's that one.
Okay, clearly not a cricket fan.
Yeah, no.
And then the IPL has been underway. I haven't
table there.
Yeah, I haven't kept a very close eye.
I haven't seen too much. I saw Cummins. I think had a pretty good start. I think he took 4 for in one of his matches. But outside of that, I haven't seen much in the way of the table.
Delhi Capitals, our team, 3-0. They're on top at the moment. RCB, Gujarat, Punjab, Kolkata, Lucknow, Rajasthan, all sort of in the mid there.
Which one was the one with all the Aussies?
There was a few.
Which was Ricky's team?
Punjab.
Was it?
Who's Ricky coaching?
I'm pretty sure it's Punjab,
Yeah, Punjab.
PJ Kings.
So Ricky's team's Punjab. Langer's team's Lucknow. That's where we're getting confused. And then Sunrisers have got Travis Head.
Travis Head, yes.
I think he's up there on the Orange Cup, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
the run scorers.
Not first.
Can you get run scorers and batters for us while we look at the table?
Yeah. I've already sort of run
through that.
It's too early as well.
Yeah. How many matches they play? Do they play 10 in total?
They
group matches 14.
They play 14. Yeah.
Just jump down.
There's most runs and most wickets.
Nicholas Pooran, 201. Sai Hassan, 186, 184 for Mitch Marsh in the run scorers.
Josh Butler's still good.
Mitch Stark's second.
9.
Second for Delhi with 9 poles there. Keep an eye on it as it unfolds. We've kept a pretty close eye on the IPL over the last few years, chatting with Delhi Capitals media. Haven't been invited back, so still waiting for that jersey.
Kelly Scott.
That's it.
All right, the F1 was today in Japan, so great for Aussie F1 viewers. That's right, in the afternoon. Don't have to stay up late on a Sunday night. How'd the race play out, boys?
Yeah, unfortunately, it was a bit of a snooze fest for the race, but leading into it, the main talking point was Liam Lawson, after 2 races, had lost his seat at Red Bull.
This is the Kiwi.
And got switched for Yuki. Great for Yuki to go to Japan, which is his home course, back
Nice
in
little promotion for him.
in Red Bull. Overall, to finish that story, Liam Lawson out-qualified him by 1 position, but Yuki finished in 12th and Lawson finished 17th. Both didn't score points, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But Red Bull, of course, are very keen to get a second car into the top 10 to be scoring points regularly to help Max out.
Yep.
Does he need help after taking a car that's probably middle of the pack? If the other his teammates anything to go by, being able to win and defend from 2 McLarens who have been red hot to start the season. So Lando finished 2nd and Oscar finished 3rd. So that was how they qualified. That's how they finished. This race, as I said, overall a little bit boring. I think 1 through 6 finished as they qualified. And it was more the back end of the pack that actually had some some movement and around there. There was a little bit pit shenanigans with Lando and Max kind of running into each other, but outside of that, like I said, very quiet race. They just went around and we got the result. Doohan did have that big crash in FP2, did come back and finish in 15th. He was 2 positions behind his teammate in Gasly. So hopefully Doohan continues to be safe-ish. Still some talk about him getting booted probably around race 6. But at this stage, okay. Lando leads from Max in the driver's standings by 1 point, Jimmy.
Yep. Yeah, 62 to 61.
And Oscar is sitting there in 3rd. So
49.
Yeah, they're very close.
Yep.
George Russell keeps scoring points. Kimi Antonelli keeps scoring points. Mercedes are there probably looking to be first, cab off the ranks when one of those other teams ahead of them falters. And Ferrari still kind of struggling to get some consistency and some pace. They do go into the triple header. Well, this is race 1 of the triple header. They go to Bahrain and Saudi is the next 2 over the next 2 weekends. So we'll see how the teams go over that.
McLaren taking a pretty handy lead in the constructors there. They're on 111, Mercedes 75, Red Bull 61, Ferrari 35. Obviously, way too early to be anointing anyone. But, what's that, 25, 11, 36 points through 3 races. Pretty handy lead.
Yeah.
That does create an interesting dilemma as well, though, with both Oscar and Lando driving so well. They're going to be taking points off each other and just letting Max kind of just sit there.
Yeah. And there were some stages of this race where Oscar potentially was faster than Lando, so they could have switched him to potentially give him an option of having a run at Max, because they finished with a second in between them. So it was a second between first and second and a second between second and third. So they were very close in this race. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out as the season goes on, because at the moment it's those 3 probably competing for the Drivers' Championship that they have shown the most capability. But 2 of those being teammates will be very interesting. That they're tripping over each other regularly. That Max can sneak some points. And for Red Bull, you had it there. They had 61 points as a team, and all of those are Max Verstappen's points. They don't have a second. They don't have a second driver scoring points at the moment for them, which is also a big concern.
Where did Yuki finish today? You say
12th.
Okay.
Yeah, so an improvement over what Lawson was doing, but still didn't score points. So it doesn't. In the scheme of things, it's not helping. So they will want someone to be in there helping sooner rather than later.
Bahrain's next week. Is that a day or a night?
You do for it'll be both. So for them it's night, and it'll be a night race for us. It'll be like 11 o'clock start.
And Saudi's a night race as well. Are both of those Middle East races?
Yeah, I think so.
Night races.
Yeah.
Midnight for us for Bahrain.
Yeah, they can.
And
3 a.m.
Yeah, and even earlier one. Yeah.
So one of those has to be.
That's under lights though. Definitely.
Yeah. So Saudi's under lights. I think.
I know Saudi's definitely under lights.
And I think Bahrain would be like twilight.
Yeah. Could very well be.
Oh no, it says race 1 a.m. Nah, they're probably both under
for
lights.
us.
Yeah.
Actually, track time
6.
Yeah.
Twilight-ish. Very good. All right. So that's 3 races in the books in the F1. That's a month of footy down. That's pointy end of the NBA. And one of our favourite things to talk about The NFL draft is not that far away.
3
That'll
weeks.
be Anzac Day for us over here. So get a public holiday. That works out super well. This is On The Esky. It's an Aussie sports podcast. We like to talk about Aussie sports. We like US sport. We just like to dribble a little bit and talk all things sports news. And yeah, clip it up, have a few laughs. You know.
Stormy Daniels, etc.
Yeah, talk about Stormy Daniels. Strong finish this week. All right, boys. We should be back in about a fortnight-ish. I don't know if we'll do one before the draft special. We'll let you know on our socials.
Yeah.
Catch you then.
Bye.
Bye.